lies. It was just
bullshit. What's the difference?
It wasn't lies. It was
just bullshit. The proper way to say it. No lies, just bullshit. The proper way to say it. No lies, just bullshit. The proper way to say it. No lies, just bullshit. The proper way to say it. No lies, just bullshit.
Who said liar? I said bullshit artist. And what's the difference? Because I don't lie.
Hello and welcome to No Lies Just Bullshit. I am your host, Nick Swartz. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 401. Before we get into this week's episode, y'all know the deal. Y'all know the drill. It's AllianceTattooSupply.com. You go over there, you click on the stuff you need. The crew bags it up, boxes it up, sends it to you efficiently at a good price for people you can trust. And we love and appreciate them. They support No Lies Just Bullshit. They're also supporting Shenandoah Rose. Speaking of Shenandoah Rose, that is our 25th anniversary celebration of Alley Cat Tattoo that we will be throwing August 7th, 8th, and 9th. Alliance will be there in the form of totally decking out every tattooer with the setups they need to tattoo that weekend, and we are super grateful for that. We appreciate them. We appreciate all they do for us, and I can't overstate it. Back to the Shenandoah Rose. I've done this a couple times. I'm going to do it probably the wrong way, but so what I normally do is like start telling you who's going to be there, and then I forget who's going to be there, and then I don't blah, blah, blah. So right now I'm just going to go over the list. Timothy Hoyer, Mario Desa, Jeff Rasher, Brian McNeil, Kylie Green, Nick Hall, Jesse Struthers, Mac Tyre, Jimmy P, Kurt Bear, Mike Wilson, Larry Davis, Angelo Miller, Mike Brummett, Juan Puente, Yoni Zilber, Wrath, Will Lally, Eric Desmond, Christian Lane, and Chad Cheska. You heard? Big dogs only, y'all. And I also know that there's a bunch of tattooers coming to just straight kick it and party and have a great weekend with us. And you can come kick it and party and have a great weekend with us also. And we'd love it and we'd much appreciate it. So obviously the shop is only so big. So you're not just going to be able to chill in the building the whole time, but we're going to have tents set up outside. We're going to have a bar set up outside. We're going to have tables and chairs and food trucks outside. And we're going to kick it and tell stories of tattoo magic and greatness. We're going to talk about all our favorite tattooers who couldn't make it. We're going to talk about legendary tattoos that we've seen over the years. We're going to talk about legendary tattoos that are being done right there. I'm real excited for folks to come see the new shop. It's not new anymore, I guess. It's 2 years old, but Alley Cat's 25 years old, and we're super stoked about that. The old shop was down on the corner, about a quarter mile down the road on the same side, and I miss the griminess of that, but the new shop is luxurious and spacious and dope, and I don't know if it's luxurious, but it's spacious and dope. Yeah, I want everybody to come and see the place and kick it and just celebrate the magic of tattooing 25 years in Harrisonburg. What else we got going on? That's kind of like my priority, my focus right now is that event. Of course, day-to-day operations at Alley Cat and delivering the best podcast that we can deliver, which brings me to episode 401, which is the one you're listening to right now. You're tuned in and you're lucky because this is Chris Wielk, and Chris Wielk is one of my favorites. Not only does he tattoo his ass off, not only does he work his ass off, not only is he an incredible tattooer, but he often will shed light on subjects that I think I know with a different perspective that's eye-opening. And this is a great conversation where that happens more than once. And his previous episode, where he talked about the style of Japanese tattooing that he does, he talks about being drawn to that because of his love of traditional American tattooing and the simplicity of that, and that sort of transformed into something that he thought that he could bring to the table in the form of Japanese stuff, and it just was really eye-opening for me. Chris is a friend to me, a friend to the shop. He comes down and works periodically. If you're local to Virginia and you want a large, bold, dynamic Japanese tattoo, come to Alley Cat and start it with Chris next time he comes to town. I think, as a matter of fact, he may come and tattoo a few days before the Shenandoah Rose so that he can kick it for the Shenandoah Rose. And yeah, I don't know. This is one of my guys. I met him around 8 or 9 years ago when No Lies was getting started. He was working with Joe Bonnie, and we've just been friends ever since. He's just consistently a good dude. And I'm always a pleasure hosting him at Alley Cat, and always a pleasure hosting him on No Lies Just Bullshit. So here it is, Chris Wielk, No Lies Just Bullshit 401. As you said before, like, if someone says to you, hey, I want to figure this out, and you say to them, well, then fucking just go figure it out. It's just like, figure out how to shoot pool, or figure out how to fucking kick a soccer ball. There's lessons, it's obvious, but I think part of the reason that that's your response is because the difference in the environment that you tattoo in versus a street shop environment. Is that fair to say?
It is, but the environment that I learned how to tattoo in was sort of almost like the people that we were talking about earlier, where it was like, but where I started was that environment that wasn't a busy street shop. It was a street shop, but it wasn't a ton of that type of repetition. But I do think there's a lot that you can. I just think it's more a matter of like, by trying it, you might figure out that you will just fail.
And that absolutely.
And you'll like rule shit out faster almost than like this drawn out thing that you're building up, because I've tattooed a handful of people at least that think they want to tattoo, and by the time they get to the point where it's like, so you're gonna quit your job and be a tattooer, like, what are you gonna, like, I know it's cool and we all want to tattoo, tattooing's cool, but like, when you get down to it, is this really what you want to be doing? And I think even by doing a couple of tattoos, you can quickly realize how.
Well, I was gonna say, if you have half a brain, you realize this is way more difficult than I imagined it, and I could hurt somebody.
Yeah.
And in that also lies the if you have a mentor, you have somebody that can give you some, whether it's a negative or positive experience, they can give you some form of feedback. If you don't have anybody to guide you, you can just become discouraged on your own. Or there are cats like Lehigh and Hoyer who just kept pushing because they could see that with their previous experience in art, whether it's in education or just their enjoyment of art, they could see, I just need to do, there's something I need to do, I'm not doing it, and I need to find those answers. And they either work to find them. I guess my point is like, with some people, there's like that discouragement is just they're gonna get away from it. And if you have a mentor, you can be redirected, but it takes a special kind of person to do it on their own and continue to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I said Lehigh and Hoyer because they've reached super amazing heights and they're self-taught, but they're also exceptional. And they're also gifted, and they knew that, or were experiencing that prior to tattooing. They were both already drawing for years and years. And they were both already, they knew that he couldn't draw what they could draw. And they were seeing that every fucking time they went to a tattoo shop and showed somebody a book, or when their friends went, can you just draw this for me? And then I'll take it to the tattoo shop.
Yeah, they were, whether they got into tattooing or not, they were going to land somewhere in the realm of being creative.
Correct.
Yeah.
I just, for us in a small area, it's a little more threatening. But I'm probably naive to what you're talking about. It probably happens 25 more times often than I realize it does, and I just never see or hear about it.
Well, I think the thing of like, wouldn't it be great if we could all have perfect apprenticeships? But it's like the barrier of finding, you might find somebody who's gonna, the people who are the most likely to apprentice you are the people who are gonna try to take advantage of you, take your money, whatever, and it's like, is that worth doing that or not? Get tattooed and meet good people and they'll help you out or not.
When people come here and ask to apprentice, my opening line as of like the past 6-8 months makes all their faces drop. I say, in August, we're celebrating our 25th anniversary, and Porter is the only person we've ever apprenticed, and he happens to be the most successful tattooer for 100 miles. they immediately go. They just drop. They can't believe that we've only apprenticed one fucking person in all this time. They just can't fucking wrap their mind around that because we're the top tier around here. That just destroys them to some extent. You know what I mean? Which
But it should.
In a
It's like,
apprenticeship, you should be assured over and over and over again, right? And then when I add on that he's the busiest guy for 100 miles or whatever, they immediately realize how many times they've heard his fucking name and how many tattoos they've seen that he did and how unattainable that is.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I say is, but in tattooing, just like every other aspect of life, it's about relationships. So I would recommend you finding someone that tattoos that you like their work and respect them and get tattooed by them as often as you can.
Yeah.
And then I leave it. And half of them are like, fuck, I'll never be able to do this. The other quarter of them are like, he's just after my money. And then, the other quarter goes, I guess, he's right. Life's about relationships.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I imagine in just this little bit of the conversation, I'm realizing that it's a bigger world than I realized, and that exact thing that you're saying is happening probably every fucking day, where someone acquires a kid, decides they're going to tattoo themselves with their friend or their sister, they do it and they're like, fuck. And then they sell it and they move on. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's not. It's also. Because everything I'm going to say sounds like I'm encouraging it, and it's not what I'm saying. But it's like
that's what made me laugh so hard.
It's not that hard to do a mediocre to bad tattoo, and you can put a tattoo machine in most people's hands.
Put a permanent mark on.
Yeah, it's not, and so people might think that you do one tattoo and you're like, oh, I can do this, but to do a good tattoo is incredibly hard. And once you understand that, you quickly are just like, if you can't figure it out or you don't have the right people to help you.
Yeah, I think there's also a level of like, as tattooers, we see like somebody that's questioning, like somebody says I want to be a tattooer. Like one of the things I guess we kind of consciously or subconsciously look for is how critical is this person of themselves and what they're looking at. Yeah. And I think because over time that critical part's going to get louder and louder, or it's just not going to do anything, and it's perfectly happy to be like, look, I just did this mark on somebody. I'm a tattooer, yay. Yeah.
At this point, we've met a lot of tattooers that are naive to their skill level.
Dude, I mean, just the fucking, like, the amount, like, Vito the other day was, I just hit him with you been sleeping much since you moved here? And he went, not really. I went, yep, welcome to it. I like Vito because the first thing I realized about Vito is that he cares.
Absolutely.
And the fact that, you can't.
I think he also understands that getting his ass whipped is part of daily life for the past couple of years. And especially in this room,
Yeah, nobody understands. I used to think that all the time because I would just try to, very arrogantly and very controllingly try to tell people what the best thing for their tattoo was. But I would always say to myself, I would say to them, I care more about your tattoo than you do. I guarantee you I do.
Sure.
But I don't say that, and then I don't use that tone anymore because it's not the best. But a good tattooer, whether they're doing a big or a little tattoo, they've always stayed up at night being like, oh, fuck, what did I do?
One of the reasons you can't say that to them is because they won't understand what you mean by that. What you mean by that is your tattoo is my reputation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to tell a girl today, she wanted, you didn't hear this part of it. This girl and her husband came in, and they wanted tattoos for their anniversary, and I tattooed him. He was pretty easy. But she wanted 6 elements in one tattoo, and she wanted it tiny. And I was like, I can't do it any smaller than that. And I said it to her so many ways that, her husband got it, but he was just like...
Well, she runs his ass most of the time.
Probably. And, yeah. It wasn't that blatant, but I think it was either he was just he gets run by her, or he was like, I'm just waiting for her to figure it out. Sure. But anyway, long story short, I explained to her what would happen if I did the tattoo at the size that she wanted, and I was like, it'll look terrible, within months. And she goes, well, I just like things that are dainty, so I wouldn't really care if it didn't look good. And I went,
that was a lie.
And I had to okay, well, let me try this. And I said, let me try this from another angle. I'm not letting that leave this shop. My job is to give you something that'll look good the rest of your life. And I'm not doing that in that scenario, and I can't do that for you. It just simply won't happen. Maybe somebody here could find another way of doing it to the size standard, to the size that you want, but nobody's gonna let a tattoo here that's out of here that's gonna look bad later. And she just like that. Unfortunately, I had to say, no, it's not about you anymore, it's about me. But that kind of like drove it home. You know?
Sure.
It was a tough thing to say because I don't want to make it about me.
But you weren't a dick about it. She understood. It took her some time to understand what you were saying and to be like, move on.
At no point did anybody get their get bent out of shape.
Yeah.
Tweety Bird you did 20 years ago, still looking crispy, fresh and new. Sitting by Dalton, this chick was hanging out with Dalton's parents on the deck, and he's like, "Oh, who did your tattoo?"
Yellow still in there.
Yeah, dog. But
Dalrizzi.
this I'm gonna get to Japan, but I want to ask you a question first, and this is gonna require you to not be that humble. But when you put up the video of the girl that you're doing your suit,
With the peonies?
the internet went bananas, bro.
Which center chrysanthemum?
Yeah.
Oh, the mums? Sorry.
The internet went wild, bro. Everybody that knows what's up went bananas. What was that day like? Pretty awesome?
Yeah.
Or like
I like to be
finish?
no, it's
It just looks so good.
I mean, at that point, the background, like the layout in the background was done, so at least the pressure of like the pressure when you're like not quite there and you're like, I hope I don't, the sleeves look good, but I hope I don't fuck up the back or whatever. Like that's much harder. But at that point, I'm like, okay, we've made the right choices and it feels.
And as we know from previous discussions, you draw sleeves to be added onto and so on.
Yeah.
Everything. So like when you're scalping those corners, you know what's going to go under or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can still blow it. I mean, not blow it, but you can always look at it and go, I wish it was this way or that way.
I mean, the ceiling can cave in.
But I feel still pretty confident about, that was like, I think about that suit being very, I'm glad that I did it at the time that I did it, because even if I had done it 2 years later, I might have overdone it, or I might have, like it was kind of like the right thing at the right time, and I'm like, okay, all of those choices, it's like a classic tattoo. You're like, okay, even if things might evolve in some direction, at least it feels like I won't get sick of looking at that, or I don't feel like I made the wrong decision or something.
I didn't set that up or ask you that to make you say something arrogant. We were all so excited, and then when we started seeing that day progress and we saw how excited all our friends were, it just looks really great. And you know me, whether you've heard me talk about that tattoo or the tattoo you did today or the back on that fella or whatever, like when I get excited about something that's in the vein of what you do, I go bananas. And that thing just nails it so hard. I just was hoping that you were feeling that your peers were like, this motherfucker nailed this.
Yeah, it's nice to see nice things, and it's like these things take so long that you're like at least getting some validation or some whatever. It's like, and I think it's almost more equally as important for the client to have people hyped on their shit.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I'm not like I think my shit's good or bad or it doesn't matter, but I know the choices that I've made and I try to feel confident in them and whatever. But sometimes clients, she's happy with her suit too, but it's like it's a big commitment, and when they see it, they're like, I don't know or whatever, and then you see everybody hyped on it. Yeah,
I want to be encouraging to the gentleman you tattooed today, because the type of tattooing you're doing on a large scale requires a certain thoughtfulness to it, wouldn't you say, Pete? And I love a fucking straightforward that Tweety Bird. I love that. You can't say nothing bad about that. I love that.
A tattoo that looks like a tattoo is magic.
But plus, I've been looking at country-ass ladies with a Tweety Bird on their ankle since I was 4 years old. And since I was old enough to realize that's a common thing. And I love it. But when you have someone that pairs up with a determined, established tattooer, and together they come up with something that's that thoughtful and beautiful, it gets me really excited, and I just love it. So I want her to feel encouraged when I go bananas on Shop Talk about it. It's because that's sincere from me. You know what I'm saying? Super sincere.
She's also very good at being excited about it, or likes to. It's fun. She's not overly serious, and she's fun, whatever, and that's fun.
That's
but she likes to like.
I missed her. I guess it was Pagoda.
Yeah.
Like, apparently she'd just been at the booth, and then I came. And
she wasn't there the whole weekend, but she did stop by. But there were a few people. Even that weekend, there were a few people. Like, say something that sound like I'm talking about blowing my shit up. But Dean was like, said that she walked by and Bill was like, hey, Dean, you see those sleeves? And he was like, yeah, Chris did those. And Bill was like, oh, okay. Like he is doing the right thing or whatever.
Yeah,
so like that kind of thing. And Justin said something to me and all these people, they're like, oh, I saw those sleeves that you did. And like that almost in person, seeing all the comments on the internet's cool but it doesn't take much to go fire, whatever.
Sure.
We all do it all day long. But when people in person go out of their way to say, hey, I saw this tattoo,
Yeah.
that feels, different.
Yeah.
And it's nice that it's like, sometimes things look good in a picture and you see it in person, you're like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen it in person, but the pictures just look like everything healed very uniformly, very nice.
Yeah, beautiful tattoos.
So what else is going on? What's new? Japan recently?
I went to Japan in March, so very recently.
That's recently.
Yeah.
You've been before, huh?
That was my third trip, but it's been...
That's recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been since before COVID. Like, before I moved, like, it was in 2019, because he stayed at my house.
Mm-hmm.
He was out there visiting, and we went... And
Yeah,
it
you
was
You
March.
were in Japan and you were...
It was March of
Yeah, it was
2019.
my-
I went to Japan, and then I moved back to New York, like, the week after I got back, basically.
My last day at Kazoku, we went out to dinner and they got up early in the morning, got on a flight,
Yeah,
and left.
and he and Becca were staying. And I was talking to Becca about it because it was when she was pregnant, also. So we're like
Yeah.
track that timeline that way. Yeah.
Yeah, so and that was when you went to meet Horihide, right? Because I think he got me the Hanya and snake then.
Yeah, we went to meet Horiyoshi. It was so that Jill could do was working on a project at the time that she was interviewing Horiyoshi and Horihide, and we were, traveling around doing some of that stuff. And then we did that for a week, and then at that time I stayed for another week. And my friend Mike came, and he actually came with me on this trip also. So that was like a cool, full circle, whatever, going back around. But
I thought that trip in 19 was for a book for Horihide or something like that.
It was a project that was about Mike Malone that I think is not over but stalled. I mean, then that was 2019, so a lot of things happened after 2019 that
Okay.
shit changed. But
Sure.
I mean, I knew you all were going to see Horiyoshi, but I thought I was crazy.
it was revolving around some other things that they tied into the history of, but
Jill was really
that's her
excited about it.
project to
Yeah.
discuss.
Yeah. So, was it just time to go back?
Yeah, so like a year ago I had twins. So that was the big, whatever, that was crazy. And 4 years ago, I also had a child, so that was crazy.
Sorry to cut you off. I'm bad about that. Everybody who I've talked to with a new kid goes, but Chris has twins.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then when they say that, I go, and a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
It's just bananas. Anyway.
But so it was like, before my wife was, I was kind of like, I was ready to go back, but I went in 2019. 2020, there's a pandemic.
Right.
Kind of get through the other side of that. 2022, I had a kid. For another year or two, things just kept happening. And once we kind of like knew what was going on and whatever, we were having twins, and I was like, I really want to get back to Japan. So like, what's the soonest that I can do that without, once the dust settles a little bit. And it was kind of like, I was talking to a few people about it even on this trip, but I think my previous trips were all like multiple week things, and it kind of just had to be like, that's not my life anymore. It's not going to happen. And if I'm continuing to hold out for this month-long trip, I'll never go back. So let me just carve out a time. It's like between all the things on our calendar, and it made sense. So I was like able to go for 8 days, stayed in one place, but kind of, I just wanted, I also think in the last couple of years, like, we did travel for a while, then started traveling a lot again and conventions and all this shit. And I'm like, kind of trying to figure out what is the highest value to me, because my time is so restricted with my family and my work and all these things. So it's like, if I can prioritize going to Japan once or twice a year, and even if that means I have to say no to something or things are shifting, it's like, that's worth it, and I just need to do it and commit to it.
Because it's most beneficial to your creative drive and what you do and the point of view
Yeah, and I think, and even just like,
well, I mean, that's an investment in yourself. I mean, that's a tax write-off.
yeah, that's fine. And it's a good time to get, it's a good time to go.
Who writes it off? Who's writing this stuff off?
It's a write-off.
The big corporations.
Do you even know what a write-off is?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, well, Seinfeld for you, Avery. So you tattooed there.
So basically I was there for 8 days, got tattooed 2 days, tattooed for 2 days, did tattoo touristy things for the other 4 days. So it was a tight trip, but it was, I also, having gone a couple of times, I was like, okay, I know it's not the first time I went, it's not gonna be the last time. I don't have to like see and do everything. I've seen a lot of the major spots like multiple times at this point, so it's like, okay, we can like put those aside and just like focus on a handful of things.
Sure. When you say tattoo touristy stuff, you're talking about going to temples and looking at paintings and carvings and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, fucking lay down the highlights, dog.
I mean, we went the first. So all right. So I'll give you the full.
Give me the whole itinerary. You land.
So, all right. We left
Japanese airspace.
We left. We left at 2 p.m. Monday. 13 hours later, we arrived. It's 5 p.m. Tuesday. It's like,
That's what I want, dog.
Yeah. You try to go to sleep. You wake up. It's 3 a.m. You can't fucking. You can't sleep.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah.
So that was like, we just, had to do that. But the first day we went to this place called Mount Takao. That's like an hour-ish south of Tokyo. And it's one of the mountains with temple. There's a temple at the top of it, and there's like the big Tengu statues. I'm sure you've seen pictures of them. They're kind of iconic. There's these two big Tengu.
Is it the one with Sojibo? With the warfare?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Big wings, right? Yeah.
And there's like at the base of the mountain, there's a Fudomiyo temple. It's just like everything,
Yeah.
Every step of the way, there's something. You're like, how many things can I take pictures of and whatever. And it was I feel like all the trips that I've gone on become very like centered around dragons. Everything is, from what I think about all the time anyway. But like, but it's like you would just hone in on these things and like. Because there's a lot of like carvings and stuff, it's something about this time especially felt like the three-dimensionality of that stuff and seeing them and like, oh, I never thought about what does the arm look like from the back at this angle or whatever, because it's not a flat image, was really interesting. So but it's more like absorbing and being overwhelmed by it. I feel like that was the thing that the like biggest takeaway of the whole trip is like, you just have to go to kind of remember that feeling, because you can't get that from looking at a book. When you're climbing the mountain, you're like, look at this thing. How about this one? Like, and the monks are chanting, and you hear, the incense is going and all this shit. It's like, it's very, it's just very powerful.
Yeah. Is it difficult to consume that much in a day or in a trip?
It isn't. We did a pretty good job on this one of like kind of picking one major thing and like, let's do that and spend our time there. So this one, and like this, we didn't realize was like it wasn't very long, but it was very steep, so it was like more of a hike than we anticipated after the day right after travel and all that. But we just took our time and like went up and seeing it was all new things, but I'm so much more familiar with all of this than I was 6 years ago or whatever the last time. That it was like kind of just getting a new perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean you're far from where you were 6 or 7 years ago. Because like when we first met, you were working for Jill, and you were, I think you were sort of moving towards your point of view and doing the stuff that you do now, but you also were doing street shop stuff to some extent, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to say that wrong, but I'm pretty
sure.
No,
and I think it's like I'm still very much a sponge for all of it, but especially on my first trip, I was looking at everything, and this time I was looking at everything, but like I know what I'm looking for in a different way, and I know what I've seen and what I'm trying to like gain new perspective on, and some of it is very specific with imagery and like the way a claw looks or things like that, but some of it is more just like a feeling, and what does the place feel like, and what does the place that these tattoos are meant to exist in feel like, and I think that's the stuff that you can't get from a book or a video or the internet or whatever.
I'm not sure exactly how to word this, but I was kind of trying to imagine it, and then it completely changed when you said and monks are chanting. So when they see someone like you, they know you're there to absorb imagery for tattoos, but those images, those deities and those creatures and those things aren't tattoo related to them, right?
No.
And so it's you're just a tourist to them. They don't give a fuck, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I just wonder. It just
Like, they
does that
must
make
know, like, when you see a certain type of Western person who looks like that, like, they know why you're there, what brought you there, I'm sure. They're not,
Yeah.
ignorant to that, but I don't think that they care. And, like, another thing that...
They're monks. I don't see
Yeah,
it.
they're people, they got iPhones,
But I mean, so if they're,
They're
there,
people. That makes
Yeah.
them.
like, is there? So if that temple has the Tengu statues, is that part of their, like, what they're dedicated to, as far as praying toward that, or do we know?
There's, at that place, there are multiple, like, shrines and temples kind of layered up into the mountains, so different ones maybe are associated with different things, and a lot of what is in the mountain and at the base of the mountain has like Fudomio stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Couldn't say that like the Tengu stuff
I'm
is
not
necessarily
assuming authority.
affiliated
Yeah.
with it. But you just kind of see these different things, like they could have been introduced at different points in time, even in that place.
Sure. Like, when you think about the Robert Ryan stuff, he's like, oh, well, I turned my house into a shrine to this deity.
Yeah.
If you're there and you're praying and chanting, I'm assuming to that deity that the shrine's dedicated to some extent. So I'm just curious.
I think so, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm not. Again, I'm not at all an expert on it. But the different religions are both like there's the religions are there's Shinto and Buddhism are like kind of the two main things in Japan.
Yeah.
And they're both like separate but also intertwined at different places, and people like you can kind of consider yourself a Buddhist, but also because of the tradition of the culture, like have a shrine to a Shinto god,
Sure.
deity or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think some of that stuff is like it's almost in the way that like some people view religions as religious and some people view it as cultural, and there's just
Sure.
these things like intermingle and
Yeah.
and there's a whole. I was reading something. Like, I'm not at all an expert on it, but something about there are points in time in Japanese history where like the government really tried to like push down Shinto and put like this is the state religion is this thing instead of that, like kind of separating like the old from the new. But I think at this point there are things that are just kind of intermixed.
Sure. Yeah. Again, I'm not holding you as the authority on those things. It's just something.
But but you're right in that like if you go to the Fudomio temple, Fudomio is the main
Yeah.
god there, and that's the thing that people are typically praying to, I believe. And if you
Yeah.
go to another one, there might be a different god or a different Buddha or whatever, and that's like the patron saint of that place.
I need to
Essentially,
get a monk on this podcast. I don't know how hard that would be. Probably pretty hard. But I'm fascinated
Yeah,
when
folks.
anyone is completely devout toward something. That's fascinating to me. And a lot of times with religion, because do you really know?
yeah.
Do you know? Or do you know?
Well, in those Eastern
You're hoping.
religions, it's like it's a little bit of a different thing than the way that
Sure.
Christianity, the devout Christians are, and
But
whatever.
we're all I'm seeing it through a southern, windshield, like southern, mostly Baptist Christian. I mean, my mom was Catholic, but she's a hard atheist, and so. But I grew up around a lot of just Southern Baptist, Presbyterian type things, and when you think about it, like just the idea of multiple gods is crazy to
Yeah.
us. You know what I'm saying? But I just find it fascinating when someone's like, "I'm dedicated to this," in every fiber of me. I just think it's amazing.
It seems like you get more of that in monotheistic religions, that type of like extreme dedication.
Yeah.
But that's all.
Yeah, I mean, maybe extreme dedication to God or Jesus or Christianity, but we're also those folks. That's not who I am, but those folks are also going to school and going to the Moose Lodge and having picnics, and these people you're talking about are just doing it every single day. They're just
But those are. I mean, it's like maybe not the exact
But even a
equivalent, but it's like
preacher-
going to the Vatican. It's like these are the people that live that life
All the
at
time.
that place. That's where
Like
it's a
a preacher
separate-
in our culture doesn't live even
Right.
close to that.
Right.
But we hold the preacher up high, but he doesn't dedicate a quarter of his time, or maybe he does, but that's not a fair number. But he's also playing golf. And
But there
most of
are
those monks
people
aren't.
like those monks on the mountain in Japan are not. But like I used to go to the Zen Center in San Francisco, and there are Zen Buddhist monks there that go home and have a family and could
Yeah.
work in Silicon Valley and shit. Like it's like
Wow.
there's different things, and I think there's just different paths, and I don't know if how many of those people are they full time, or is that where you go for your monk training, or it's like who knows? Like there could be chunks of time. I don't think that they're like ascetics, like up in the like I don't think that they're people that are like living in a cave and shunning the rest of the world or something.
Right. Have you all seen the movie Silence, the Scorsese movie?
Silent?
Is it the one with the Christian missionaries in Japan? Yeah.
Oh, is that the
We
one?
don't have to go into it, 'cause
Keanu
I
Reeves?
don't want to upset anybody, but it's
Yeah, it's wild.
Is
Yeah.
Keanu? No,
the guy.
Driver.
Adam Driver, right?
Yeah.
Kylo Ren?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a Scorsese.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a Scorsese movie either,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I've heard.
Y'all
It's
have
the
to.
Byzantine.
We can't even talk about it here, but y'all can look into it.
It's the Byzantine monks, right?
I don't know.
Like Friar
Crazy
Tucks.
shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Heavy duty. Anyway, so
Before you get started, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I gotta split. Ripley is throwing a fit. He wants me to come put him to bed.
go put him to bed.
Tell me said goodnight.
Yeah, well, punch him out.
All right, P.
See you tomorrow
Good
morning.
morning, yeah.
You guys doing breakfast again?
Maybe. We'll touch.
Yeah, just text me. Let me know what you're thinking. We could probably try somewhere else.
If you don't feel like doing breakfast again, we got bagels for you.
I got bagels in New York.
Oh, shit. Sorry. This fucking guy.
You should tell him about the Richmond trip where we went to the pizzeria with Andy and Steve.
No, fuck those dudes. Fuck those dudes. Nah, I love them. They're the best. All right, Pete. So you did. It's something that I've always tried to tell everybody who tries to tell me what to do, and I'm like, once you think this is full length, you're different. Once you think I'm being filmed and it's going to be a 2-hour conversation of me on film, you're behaving differently. And I don't. So just so you know, it's not that.
All right.
I
How do
would
I
never
look?
change. Huh?
How do I look?
You look great. I love your shirt. I would never change it on you without telling you either.
Yeah.
Because I'm grateful. The last time we did this, I had so much fun and learned so much about tattoos that I didn't get. The way you explained your approach and how much you like traditional tattoos, American stuff, and how you translate that. It's really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. And I appreciate that, man. And I think it did for other folks too. So you said how many days did you have to like just be touristy?
So first day we did the mountain tour, the mountain excursion, hike, whatever, and then we came back into Tokyo from there and like went to one of this very sick like
traveling on
art supply
train?
store. Yeah, so we took the train back in, went to this art store that I order a lot of my paintbrushes and things from. So it's just cool to like go to the store and see, get to see all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. Spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
And there was a woman there who was very nice and helpful and spoke English, so it was like opened up the like at first I was like, oh, I'll get a couple brushes, and then it was like, well, if you speak English, like tell me about all the things. So I got like, like pigment that you could mix, but like the powder pigment to mix and all that kind of stuff for painting, and just it was cool to get to go do that. Then the second
That's the nerdy stuff, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
you paint so much. Like,
yeah, it's fun. I mean, like it's also good. The yen is very weak right now. So it's a good time to go shopping in Japan. So like your money goes a long way. So you feel like you're saving money going to Japan buying paintbrushes.
Do you carry that stuff back? You ship it back.
I carried it back.
Yeah.
We shipped tattoo stuff there because the tattooing thing is like separate, and you can't, those for obvious reasons you don't
Right.
want to bring it through. But we were able to carry all the art supplies back.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the second day we just did some like in Tokyo kind of touristy stuff, and then I went and got tattooed, and that was probably I don't want to say the best, the highlight of the trip, but I feel like the experience getting tattooed in a private studio in Japan most closely aligns with the type of thing that I am trying to do, and kind of seeing somebody's space and the way that he was able, just sort of like almost the hospitality and the attention to care and all of these things. And it was a tattooer that I've met before, but it wasn't like we're not best friends, we're not friends really or whatever.
But did what he conveyed to you that day includes like the whole experience is similar to what you're trying to do?
I think there's a lot to learn from just even that, the way that he met us at the train station, walked us to the place, took us to get a coffee after, and all these things. And I didn't get the impression that was special treatment. I got the impression that this is just how
It's routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for a Westerner going to them. But I think, and then just being in the environment and like being immersed in one person's kind of world and their viewpoint and their drawings and the way that they design their studio, which the space is tiny.
Yeah. I just imagine them all as we've seen the pictures of Horiyoshi's. It's just like a mat, a floor, and books on a shelf, and then sometimes you see it in disarray, and sometimes you see it very neat. But
it was so layered. But Horiyoshi's studio, the one that I was in, is like the size of this room, if not bigger. It's very large for a Japanese studio.
And it also has like a sizable waiting area, right?
Yeah, there's like an area with a table. There's an area with a table, and then there's like a separate area with like the raised tatami, and then it's lined with, and everything in all of their spaces is lined low because they sit low. So it's like all the bookshelves and everything are kind of like on the floor almost.
Right.
But Momo's studio was like 1/6 the size. It was like,
oh shit,
like the size of that thing if it were square. Whatever. And there was two. Like that was the tattoo room, and then there's another. And I kind of made at some point a comment like, "Oh yeah, my studio's small." He was like, "Yeah, you work by yourself?" And I was like, "Yeah, my studio's too small." I'm like, "Well, it's considerably larger than this, but it's small for me." And like the ceilings were low, like it's just kind of tight, and it's just in an apartment. It's like a very traditional old Tokyo apartment, so it's tight and it's kind of nondescript place and all that stuff.
Are there like drawings or paintings on display?
Yeah, so it was like kind of reminiscent of any kind of classic like a tattoo shop where it was like all of his line drawings that he had used, or they were stencils, basically used stencils just like pinned up to the wall.
Yeah.
Big Hanya masks, photos of people with suits and all that stuff, but it was predominantly his work. It wasn't like a collection of things. And the room that you enter in, he did have kind of a collection of things that people had given him and whatever. But I think seeing that is a thing that I try to think about in my studio also, where it's like you're only being exposed to one point of view, essentially. And I don't know that he's doing that. That's an intentional choice that he makes, but it was something that I like clearly picked up on. And it's like the way that you can look around and become inspired by other ideas, or whether you're as a client or a tattooer, it's all very like specific.
But doesn't that speak to what you were saying before we started about how you want people to the people you're tattooing, you want to get tattooed by you in the entirety, and you want to display your point of view completely. Like, this tattoo shop, there's like everything. There's, new and old, and there's American and Japanese and otherwise and all that stuff. But when you're doing something, and I can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're doing something that's private and very much one point of view, like you want to present that point of view so that people can see the array of options within that point of view, and then hopefully be inspired to expand upon it with you and them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I found it, I mean, I love to come to another place and absorb all of the things and get to see what everybody's doing, but it's kind of like, in my studio, I don't need you to see the other guy's dragon. I need you to see my dragon.
And that's what I want to hear, man.
Yeah, I think that's, and it's not that I don't like the other guy's dragon, it's just that that's not the dragon that I'm going to do, so what's the point of showing it to you?
It's also, that dragon's not for them because they're at your shop.
Yeah.
That dragon might be for you as you want to consume it and see how it's different, and maybe it can inspire you, or maybe you can say, I don't like that about it, as a fan of dragons or Japanese tattooing or tattoos or art. But when someone's coming into your space and you're the one guy there, that other dragon's not for them.
Yeah.
You don't want them looking at whoever's dragon. You want them to see your dragon and go, wow, that's one.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I can actually do a better version of that for you, and you start talking about that. You know what I mean? I think that's the shit.
Yeah, I think it just makes sense to me. And even when I was working in more street shop environments, I've sometimes found it frustrating or not frustrating, but just the reality of the situation. Like I worked in a shop where we had 600 sheets of hand-painted flash on each, long-ass wall, racks all the way up, and you're like, how do you get somebody to get your flash? There's too many choices, and I think that can be distracting for people, even if they're all good designs. They're all things I would be happy to tattoo, but we each kind of had our section, but people are just like, there's too much. So I think like curating a viewpoint is something that I think about. And my studio's and like, I have a bunch of paintings that I've made, and that's part of it, but mostly it's the drawings of the things that I've worked on. So it's kind of like people also like to see it and go, oh, how's that tattoo? Like they're familiar with the tattoo, or like there's all of that stuff involved with it.
Yeah, that's what I feel like I ask you a lot about when we first see one another. Like, how's that thing going, or what are the thing I saw you outline or whatever.
And a lot of they're not like competitive, but they're like, they know they started their back at the same time as the other person. Like,
Sure.
how far along is this person? How do they sit? Does it hurt them or whatever?
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
it hurts all of you.
Yeah, it sucks for everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But then the rest of what he had in there also was just like, ephemera that lent to that type of environment, like similar, keep pointing at this thing, but like pieces of fragments from a carving from a temple or whatever, and giant masks and all that kind of stuff. So it was very cool. But it was very like, because it was so small, it was like not overwhelming in a bad way, but you were definitely inundated with this.
It made it smaller because there was so much stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like there was no room.
Like the way you describe it, I'm imagining like this table if it was a cube.
Yeah, there were 2 chairs that were almost like, they were just like on the floor, like as if you took these but took the legs off, and those were like you're next to each other, and there was like that was like the chairs to sit in while you were waiting, and then there was just enough room to lay on the floor, and
Like,
then he's next to
in
you.
that space, it would get a lot smaller.
Yeah. It would be very tight.
I'm always very aware of like, okay, I'm in a closet now.
And he's not a tiny, he's, I don't know, he's probably my height. Like he's not a tiny person. Like it's interesting to see somebody who's used to move, that's not tiny, but they're used to moving in that space in a way that's very efficient and like not knocking shit over. Not like we would be like, because they're used to it.
What tattoo did you get, and was it Tabori?
Yes, I got cherry blossoms on my side.
Yeah.
On
your side.
On my like just filling stuff in my stomach. Yeah. I kind of just have space that I'm like just trying to fill it.
Yeah. You got that big Wilson thing.
It's right above that.
Okay,
yeah. And it was Tabori. It was like, and it was interesting because like it definitely hurts. But I think because the day before, like the time difference, and we did this big hike, and I was like just laying there. I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. I just haven't had a chance to like lay down for 3 hours.
Sure.
And you kind of just settle into it. I mean, I think that's kind of how I try to operate when I get tattooed anyway. But it's like, we talked a little bit, get tattooed a little bit, stare at the things.
He speaks good English?
He speaks very good English, yeah.
Was there music playing?
Yes, he had kind of like quiet, almost like world music playing.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah, it was cool.
That's interesting.
I was asking, he was like, what's it called? The NTS. Do you know what NTS radio is?
Slow strings. Huh?
Do you know what NTS radio is? It's like whatever. It's like an app that had, but he was playing that. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like you can put on different channels. But he was like, oh, I like world music. I'm like, oh, cool. But it's good for, it was like also like good background tattoo music, whatever.
The reason I asked is because one of the things that makes such an impression on me about Tabori is that sort of thud. That,
yeah.
And is that just like your client today? Like he was at a point. I feel like when I left, by the way, he was better off than when I came back there. Am I wrong?
He was doing okay, but I was asking him about that because he's been tattooed by me, like in the private studio. He's been tattooed by Rodrigo in private, but I've also tattooed him at Pagoda, Norfolk, and here. And I'm like, do you find it easier? Like, because we were kind of laughing about some of the things going on, and I'm like, is it a good distraction or is it does it make it harder? And he's like, well, it depends on where I'm at in the tattoo.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like sometimes you find yourself in moments while being tattooed that are challenging.
Yeah.
And I feel like with Tabori, and I've never been tattooed that way, but I feel like 2 things. Number one, the firmness of their stretch hand, and the sound of that thud accompanied with it hitting you. Like I feel like those would be the challenging things. Is there any?
It can almost, if it gets to you, it's probably hard. But if you lock into the right frame of mind, you can kind of convince yourself it's soothing because there's like a rhythm to it, I guess.
Sure.
But I think it's generally quiet, so like relative to a coil machine tattoo, it's not nearly as abrasive sounding. So I think that, like to me, that's a better, even getting tattooed by a rotary machine in a quiet environment relative to a coil machine where everybody's then talking louder and the music is louder.
Yeah.
It's not that one necessarily hurts more than the other in reality, but it can change your experience if it's a long
It's so weird because here, everyone uses coils, pin. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. Most everybody here uses coils. Porter will use pins, and a few of them use rotaries for different things, right? And but sometimes the music, like the calmer or lower music, will match the tone of what's being done that day. If that makes any sense,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like Andrew might be using a rotary on something, which is probably kind of rare, but Trevor or say, but sometimes it seems like it's just happened that way, But
it's like the room might adjust to the level of the noise also.
Sure.
Maybe not the music specifically, but the volume of everybody talking and all that stuff.
But then there's also times in this building, and you've been part of this, where it's like everybody's just loud as fuck, and the music's screaming, and and the energy's up, and people are talking a lot and laughing a lot. I'm curious of what you and your client today were laughing at going on around you, because on Porter's end, it could be fucking anything.
Well, we were laughing at the people that he was talking about earlier with the kind of like, is she going to get the tattoo? Is she not going to get the tattoo? And then his explanation of like, why,
The husband looked nervous in that scenario. Okay.
There were a few things about that scenario that were kind of
correct.
interesting.
I've been trying to, restrain from talking about those things. But have you been tattooed by Porter?
Yeah.
Was it a wrestling match?
It was rough.
Was it rough? Have you been tattooed by Porter?
Just the 20th.
Oh, that was probably.
I've tattooed him, but I haven't gotten a bigger tattoo.
Yeah, I knew you tattooed him. Yeah.
But even I've been using coils a little bit more recently, and in my studio, I just use them to outline, so it's like a shorter amount of time usually, but it's just a small space, so it's loud. Like it's noticeably louder, and a lot of my clients recently, so this is like very recently, I've started to just use them again, just throw them back in the mix, and like they're almost shocked because they're people who haven't been tattooed by anybody else, who have only been tattooed with this quiet machine. They're like, what the fuck is about to happen to me?
Yeah, I'm sure it's a little intimidating if you've never been.
But also it's not necessarily more painful. So it's kind
I think the only time I've been tattooed with a pen was this little thing. I think. And I'm ready to get that covered up as soon as possible.
I'm trying to not to embrace a approach that is more not be so locked into one thing. Like I think for a long time I had to get into this mindset of like I have to use this machine and run it this way and like because I need to get a certain result and know that I can get it, and now I feel confident enough that it's like sometimes I can line with this machine, sometimes I can use that. It's like what do I feel like, what makes sense for the tattoo, whatever.
It's not the machine, it's you. It's straight up, no matter what. Like you go to Andrew right now, and you can pick any machine in this motherfucking building and pick whatever type of tattoo you want. And, it could be a fucking filigree fucking name, and you could get him a shader to do it with. He'll nail it every motherfucking time. And it's the confidence in what he does. But he's had that for so long that, he's in such constant practice. But I've told this before, but I'll never forget. And when I say what I've told us before, you've heard everything I've had to say. But there was a thing where if you spent $99, they gave you a free machine. This fucking machine comes in the mail, and it's not even. It weighs as much as this aluminum cup. It is fucking nothing in your hand. And Andrew's like, "Let me show you something." He throws it across the shop down the street, and just leaves it there. And then later that day, he picks it up, brings it to his station, loads it up, and fucking does a beautiful tattoo with it. And he just laughed through the whole thing. And he didn't flex on us, and he didn't say, I can do anything. He didn't say, but he just was just like, that's not the most important thing in this equation. You know what I'm saying? And I think you're that tattooer as well. You've been doing it long enough and then practiced long enough that you can just fucking make a tattoo at some point.
Well, there's something about efficiency where you don't want to be fucking around and if the tattoo is painful, and consistency where you're like, this has to look the way that it looked last time and the next time. But even those are things that I'm comfortable at this point being but I can do that with two different machines. It doesn't really matter.
That's what I'm saying. Those variables are there.
Or I know how to adjust for those variables.
And it's important that everything be consistent, but at the same time, I think, on a skill level, you're there as well. And he's there as well. And once you've been doing it consistently for a certain amount of time, most people are tuned in like that. But there's probably people that are superstitious and this is the only thing I use or whatever,
And I try to I can go that way, not because of superstition, but just OCD, whatever. But I try to undo that intentionally. I was talking to Sam Yemeni the other day, last week. I posted something about these new needles that I got, and he was asking how they were, and I was like, I'm actually using their cartridges. I've actually been using coils again. And I was like, everything's going so well, I gotta like try to mess it up, or I gotta like twist the dials a little bit or something, just to see, just to see where you're at.
But also, and I don't want to speak for you or anybody else, but it's nice to be consistently inconsistent. You have these tools, and you want to. One day, if you're a fucking slugger, you want to use a different bat one day.
Yeah.
If you're a fucking like, if this is what you do, especially if you're feeling confident at the time, you want to fucking be like, oh, this machine is from so and so, and I remember using it on this or getting it at this time. I'm sure you want to get into your bag of tricks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the shit.
Although I sold most of my machines when I switched to the pen years ago, but I got a couple still. I got the ones that matter.
You sold most of them, really?
Yeah. I didn't have a ton. I was never a big machine collector, and I kind of was like, I'm not using these, I'm not keeping a drawer full of $5,000 of machines when I could have the $5,000.
Well, yeah, I mean, some people are more sentimental and more attached.
I kept, I have the first set that I ever bought that are good machines, but I don't like them, and then I have this other, I have a few others that I do like. But I was more like, I'll sell this so I can get this other. That's how I've always been. If I want a new shader, I'll sell this shader and get the next shader or whatever, unless I felt attached to
That's
it.
That's a good way to go.
Yeah.
So you got cherry blossoms, Tabori. What else do I want to ask you about? Or where did you tattoo? Where did you work over there?
We worked at Three Tides, so...
Man, Gordon's doing some swinging doors from the saloon doors right now. So dope.
Gordon's doing them?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. He was there, so he actually was there when we were there.
Oh yeah?
He just hit us up and he was like, we're in Tokyo, and he came by and said hi. But I didn't know that he was connected with them, really, because he said he hadn't worked there or something.
So that's one side.
Whoa.
His stuff is so ill.
He's the sickest.
He's the sickest. And that's the other side.
Damn.
So dope. Anyway,
Three Tides, it was interesting to go. So I got tattooed one day. The next day we went to, did another touristy day, went to a bunch of temples, and Horimomo sent us a very, even again to the sort of how above and beyond the experience was. He was like, he was texting me the whole week, make sure you check this out. You have to go to this place, all this stuff. And it was and I don't think it was particularly special treatment. It was just him being very generous with all these things. And he's like, I know you said, whether it was restaurants or temples or coffee shop or whatever, he was the whole time sending me, I have 50 things in my messages of just things to check out. So he sent us to a temple that we didn't have on our radar, and we got, incredible photos, and that was great and inspiring. And then the following day was when we did 2 days at Three Tides, and it was a very good experience, but a totally different experience. It was very much in the vein of a street, a very high level street shop.
yeah.
We were 2 of maybe 6 guest artists there.
Wow.
From all over the world. It was which was interesting. It was kind of, in some ways, very different than what I expected, and in some ways almost exactly what I expected, where you're I knew it was going to be different than the private setting. But it's almost the shop manager was explaining to us that the sort of vision of the owner, Masa, is almost to have it as more of an international hub or port for all these tattooers. And
Sure.
although it's definitely known for Japanese tattooing, it's really servicing a lot of Westerners and tourists, and serves as a host for international tattooers to come and visit, and all, it's kind of operates more like a Western shop in many ways.
Yeah, I mean that sounds right as to in regards to what you hear about it, and then how often that we know people that are there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I didn't. I mean, I imagine there's people from Australia, New Zealand, and Europe.
Yeah, there were there was an Italian tattooer that I'm friends with online, and he was there. I'm like, oh, you're here, cool. We can, never met before or whatever. And then there were people from
That's a great Italian tattooer.
Yeah. There were Europeans and girl from Korea and other Japanese tattooers that were just doing guest spots there and kind of using that as their kind of Tokyo base. So there's a handful of resident artists, but then there are a bunch of other tattooers from Japan that operate out of there when they're tattooing in Tokyo, essentially.
Gotcha.
But the main shop was predominantly full of guest artists, and then they have 2 satellite studios where Ichibei works, the kind of more prominent residents that you associate with the shop are not in the shop. They're in these other studios, essentially.
Right, because they don't want to
walk-ins.
have to deal with.
Yeah, they're not doing walk-ins. It's
they're
like
doing
not a
big
thing.
large scale shit all the time. And
Yeah.
the hustle and bustle and everything that comes with a lot of guests is something they don't want to entertain.
Yeah, but it was cool. It's like we just did walk-ins. We both got to tattoo. It wasn't like slammed the whole time, but got to do cool tattoos, and it's cool. Like
Were they asking for stuff that's in your wheelhouse or just whatever?
it was both, but generally speaking, I think the tourists there want to get cool. It's the kind of walk-ins you want to do. Like I did one little outline tattoo of something that was just kind of random, also, but people go there and they're like, they want cherry blossoms, they want a Hanya, they want a tiger head, like souvenir things for the most part, but they want souvenirs from their trip to Japan in this shop that, it's like they want the cool
Super
shit.
iconic.
Yeah.
And it's fucking just fantastic when souvenirs a tiger head.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Like you can't show me a tattooer that doesn't want to do a tiger head.
Yeah, and
At least-
the
at least
people
be real.
seem to be pretty like adaptable to. Maybe some people have a very specific idea, but they're happy to pick something from Flash or go with whatever the artist. They're there because you're the expert, sort of thing. And the shop was very much a well-oiled machine. It's like going to a shop like this or a Kings Avenue or like the place where you're like they have the manager and the assistants, and it's all very like structured and organized, and it's a smooth experience for everybody, even if there's a language barrier or whatever it is.
In that setting, if someone says they want a tiger head, do you show them your book?
Something that I learned while I was there that I wasn't prepared for was having more Flash prepared, because they put all of the guest artist Flash like in binders at the front so people can look. So it was like the second day I like kind of got my shit together in a different way. Like what I wasn't, even though I'm not like a walk-in tattooer at home, I think I'm pretty good at doing the walk-in thing and like selling a tattoo and getting whatever. But there's no client interaction until the tattoo is sold. Like the manager does everything. So.
And then until they come back
And then they come upstairs because it's literally upstairs or whatever. And it's a different floor. So I was like, oh, there's not an opportunity for them to say, hey, this is Chris. He said he wants a tiger tattoo. Show whatever. Yeah. It's more like he picked this tiger or whatever. So that was just like a thing that. Now I know. If I go back, that's what whatever. And by the second day, I had put my Flash out, and I have.
And they're like, I want a tiger head. And here's Chris's tiger, and you get tattooed by him.
Yeah. Or I want to get tattooed today, and here's the Flash of the guest artist today, and like, which is cool that they're pushing that too, and they're not just saying you can pick from.
That's ideal for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And then, not only your point of view, but your design.
Yeah.
Comes out of 3 tides and goes wherever it goes back to. That's
exactly.
That's ideal.
And a lot of people. I mean, I think. What I learned about that experience, and I would like to go back and work there, and I was, they're very like, you're welcome anytime, and I was invited to go to one of the other shops in Osaka, and like, but I think it would be most beneficial if you just need more time, because it's the walk-in world, right? So it's like, we worked there for 2 days, we did pretty well, but you could have had 2 dead days, you could have had 2 slam days, but if you're there for a week, it just evens out differently. And you can also book, like what some of the other guests who are there for longer were doing was like, the guy comes in today and he's there for a week and he wants to book the appointment for Thursday or whatever. And it's like, we didn't have that much time to do that.
Sure. You're going to know better than me, but so that, the manager explained to you that that's a international hub for high-level tattooing, sounds amazing. I'm assuming that there's just as many tattooers from all over the world that come to New York City or want to. Is that available? I know Kings Avenue hosts people. I know the 5 Points host people. But I mean, I wonder what heights you could achieve and like how amazing it would be if there was a place. First of all, I'm sure just like it's hard to have that much space in Tokyo, it's obviously hard to have that much space in New York City. But man, I would like to think that something like that would be wildly successful in New York.
I think the tattoo economy is probably different in Japan. There's not 500 shops already. So it's not that 3 Tides is the only one, but it's definitely the most visible and the most popular, I think, at least in our world. It's the most known. But there are other shops in the neighborhood, but it's not like Tokyo's overrun with tattoo shops. And I think that would work really well in New York if there were also 50 tattoo shops in New York.
Right.
But it's like nobody has enough. Like they were hosting 8 guests who all got to do walk-ins. It's like, what shop do you know that can support that many people that don't have their own clientele?
And as I understand it, no disrespect, but New York's not that busy, right now?
It's busy for me.
Well, I mean, I'd love to have. Anyway, I'm not gonna put you on the spot on that, but I think walk-ins aren't that crazy.
Yeah, well, and there's just enough. It's people don't need to do it, and like there probably are shops that have a good kind of like tourist setup in New York, but
Sure.
there's just so many shops that you can go to the next one or whatever.
When
There's
I
not
think
like
of
a
that, I think of
place.
that one. Is it Bang Bang? Or
Yeah,
something?
that place.
And I think right, and it's whack to us.
Yeah.
And it's whack to everyone that we know that's tattooing there. But I guess on because of social media or some level, like there's the way they're reaching tourists that I imagine other shops in New York that we respect so much more aren't reaching tourists. You know what I'm saying? And I guess locality has a lot to do with that. You can drink that.
I'm not gonna drink
I
it.
think so. You know, like.
Oh, man.
Anyway, appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon. You know, if it was up to me, I wish fucking Grandview would be slammed every day.
Yeah.
But it's in a part of Queens that's just not feasible. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And those guys do fine, I'm sure, and I love Stevie. And he's great on social media, but it's a different thing. It's a different audience, I think. You know what I mean?
Well, and the shop I used to work at, Electric Anvil, was at some point written up for like, it was one of the first shops, if not the first shop in the city that had like a get what you get kind of thing. And
Sure.
we got a ton of tourists, and it was in Brooklyn. It's not like in downtown Manhattan. It was in Brooklyn, but you'd get a lot of people because they looked up where could I get a cool, affordable tourist tattoo, whatever, in New York, and that was a place that came, top 5 on the list or whatever. And we did a ton of tattoos like that at that time when I was there. But I don't know like what. Tattoo culture is just so much more prevalent in New York that there are so many more options. Like I would think of it as like maybe Kings Avenue, but Kings Avenue's, and they do walk-ins and you can get a great walk-in. Cody will do it, Mike will do it, like whatever. There's incredible tattooers who get a great tattoo there. Yes. But like the people they have on walk-ins are some of the best tattooers in the country or the world. That's just how it is. But I don't know that that's the place where you're like also when I worked in San Francisco and I worked at Lyle's, it was like I was doing miniature Golden Gate bridges all day. I don't know what that equivalent is that people aren't like lining up at Kings Avenue to get like a Big Apple or a fucking, like a statue of Lady Liberty or something. Like where in Japan you go there and you're I want cherry blossoms and there's only 10 places to go and I'm going to go to the best one.
Right. And also, I don't know, I'm sure there's a very high, like how do you get in at 3 times? Because at Kings Ave, AJ is going to vet you for a while before you're coming in. You know what I'm saying? So and I'm sure they have a very high standard, but how does that go?
I think it's very much relationship based. So I think that I'm sure that the standard is high, and I hopefully passed made the mark or whatever. But I think that it was more of a this person vouches for you. Okay, we heard that you're a good guy. Like that kind of thing.
In your case, like lineage probably matters too.
I actually. Javier hooked me up. Javier DeLuna.
Yeah.
He had gone. I know he's
big shouts to him. What a great tattooer.
He's awesome. And I talked to a few people that have worked there, but he was like he put me in touch with Mutsuo, but Mutsuo was like I don't know that he looked at my portfolio. He said Javier said you're a good guy. You're in.
High probability that Javier said Chris used to work at Kazoku.
Yeah,
right.
Sure. And I don't know. It wasn't like I was scheming to do it, but it's like, which avenue should I go? If I had asked Jill she probably would have also. But I was more asking somebody who I consider a peer who has also gone to work there recently.
Right.
And what's your experience and how did it go? Because Jill certainly carries the weight that she could have made the connection.
Sure.
But her experience working there isn't as relevant as a current experience. What can I expect if I go?
Recently matters very much in that time.
More just like, what can I expect? Not that his word goes more than her word or something.
No, not at all. But if he was just there and then the manager has a reference of Javier was just here, and by the way, he said Chris is great.
Yeah.
That matters. Yeah.
And even for the shop people, when we got there, they're like, oh, you're Javier's friends, right, or whatever. They're like, I'm sure they would have been cool anyway, but that was how they connected who we were.
Sorry.
But there were a handful of people there. Like there was a young kid who I had never met before who works at Daredevil in New York, and he was there. And he's like, oh, I've been here for 3 weeks, and it's just like,
wow.
I think that they're pretty open to accepting, I'm not saying putting this out there like everybody blow them up to go, do your guest spot there, but I think that they're pretty open to accepting guests if people have the connection.
But Javier is top tier. Daredevil is top tier.
Right. But I think, again, I'm not speaking for anybody, but like, if you're a good tattooer and you go there and get tattooed and you are cool with them, then maybe you get an opportunity to go back. Like, I've been tattooed there before also on previous trips.
And that also matters again. Like, if you, I don't know how to... If you walk into a liquor store and say, you got any Pappy? And you've never been there, you never spent anything, they're not going to give you allocated booze. But if you go in there and you put a bottle on the thing and say, hey, if you guys ever have any interesting stuff, I'd love it, and then you come back, well, they're much more likely to share with you. Yeah. And it's the same thing in that, or even this environment. Like, if someone comes in and says, I use Richie a lot as an example. Before Richie worked for us, he called down here. He listened to Elijah's bullshit. He knew we were looking for somebody. And he called the shop, and I just happened to answer the phone, which is not that common, especially nowadays. And I'm like, hello. And he was like, hey, my name's Richie Spelder. I tattoo in Pittsburgh. And I was hoping to come down and get tattooed. And I said, what day? And he told me. And I said, who would you like to get tattooed by? And he goes, whoever's available. And I said, okay. And then I was like, look, I realized that he said, I listened to the podcast and if Andrew, but for anybody really, and then because we just kept talking, and then at the end of the conversation, he said, "Would it be okay for me to bring my portfolio and have you take a look at it?" And he didn't ask for a job or anything else. He didn't really ask for a critique either, but he was just being very casual and open, and so that goes a fucking really long way. Yeah, if someone's like, "I'll get tattooed by your shop is at this caliber, so I'll get tattooed by anybody there." Yeah. And then, now that I'm being polite and we're familiar with each other, would it be also appropriate to let you look at my tattoos? Like there's just that etiquette there matters huge for me anyway. Yeah. And I'm sure it does at those places too.
Well, tattooing, that's how I've gotten it's like I got tattooed by Jill. I got tattooed by Nala, the first person that taught me how to tattoo. Yeah. Kept getting tattooed by him. That's how I got my foot in the door. Got tattooed by Jill. That's how I met her. That's just how you do it. And I don't think...
That's what I tell these young boys.
Yeah.
And girls, it's a relationship based.
I got tattooed. And I got tattooed at 3 Tides 9 years ago. It wasn't like they remembered that, hey, you walked back in 9 years later. But I think those connections, hey, I was there, I was at this shop, or we met at the New York convention. You kind of put those pieces together, and then it's because a lot of things these days are just... There's a lot of good tattooers out there, but you're vetting for do I want this person to come spend time in this place?
Absolutely.
You can, it's not just portfolio based.
And there is vetting. I have a lot of people ask me to come work here, and I'm not saying that because we're the shit. I'm just saying that we're high enough profile that between the podcast and what these guys do tattoo wise and so on and so forth. And I can't say yes to everybody.
Well, sometimes it's not even the person's good or bad. It's just not the vibe is off. It's not the right vibe.
It's just not the
right time or the right whatever.
But when I had a guy from very far away say, "Hey, I'm trying to plan a coast to coast trip, and can you host me for 2 weeks?" And I'm like, I never heard it. I don't know who you are, and you're not explaining to me a mutual friend. And of course, this person's first language wasn't English, and I want to be accommodating, but I can't let a stranger come here and tattoo, period. And then I also cannot let someone who's doesn't have the money for accommodations to stay here and tattoo for 2 weeks. And while, that might be a nice thing to do for some folks that I'm connected to, I just can't do it to a random. Yeah. It's just impossible.
I've worked in places that had very liberal guest policies, and sometimes it works out, but oftentimes it's if you're not friends with the people, or you're not a fan of the person, or you don't, or a mutual friend, then you're like, what are we?
Well, that's what I tell everybody first. First of all, we have to have a mutual friend that I can reach out to and vet you. Yeah. But if I let some jerk off come in here and not know what the fuck they're doing, these guys will roast me, bro. My guys will light my ass up and be like, "Is this amateur night at the Tat Shack? What the fuck are you doing?" You know what I mean? And that's what they're supposed to do. Yeah. They're supposed to be a standard here. You can't just let a motherfucker off the street.
No, we had a lot of people at one of the shops that I worked at, and it was like, it's like you didn't do any tattoos all day, and this guy's staying late tattooing, and you're just like, what? And and you have to stay and lock up for him, and it's like a whole fucking thing. Not cool.
And the guy who let him come isn't there.
Exactly.
They roll out at 6:30.
Yeah. But he is getting the percentage at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah, he's taking the cut. Yeah.
So you did 2 days at 3 times?
Yeah, we did 2 days.
2 days. And so that's 2 tourist days, a tattoo day, 2 days. I'm getting the whole trip, though.
2 days. And then the day after that, we went to Nico, which was another recommendation from Horimomo. We didn't have we had some ideas. We were actually we were going to go to the Yokohama to the tattoo museum that day.
Sure.
But it was sort of questionable as to whether or not it would be open, and we were like, should we roll the dice or whatever? And he was like, you really should go to he wasn't suggesting Nico over that, or he didn't know that was our plan, but he was like, on this trip, you have to go to Nico. It's incredible, and it's where one of the shrines for one of the shoguns is, but it's a lot of the things in Japan are all very kind of like austere sort of, and this is a place where like everything's gold and everything's painted and like it's very over the top.
Yeah, sounds like my kind of joke.
It's sick, and it's like the way that the timing worked, we only had maybe 4 hours there from like the train we had to get on and the train we had to get back, and it was also kind of like up into a mountain, but we went to the first temple there, and it was also a Fudomiyo temple, and they were doing like this kind of fire ritual and the thing where they're like burning paper and the chanting and all that, so we got to like see some of that, but it was, you walk in and there's a dragon on the ceiling, and it's like a one you've never seen before, and I've seen a lot of them, and like that's one you've never seen, and you can't take photos or anything, you're trying to like sort of take a picture if you can, but they're very, I even actually took out my phone to like make a note. I'm like, I know I can't take a picture, I'm just gonna like write down like the head this way and whatever, and the woman was like, no phones. You're like, all right. So then I stepped out of the door and I'm like, all right, the head this way now.
Yeah.
Whatever. But we did that, and then you go up to the main shrine though, and there's this one place where there's probably 100 ceiling tiles the size of those squares out there, and each one has a different dragon painted on it. And it's like,
Will might have told me about this place.
Probably. I mean, it's definitely like a place
like
that
a big white dragon is the main one.
That's also in the same complex, basically. And that dragon, I forget what they call it, but it does a thing where if you stand under it and clap, basically, it like reverberates in the room, and it's supposed to be
wild style.
Yeah, and in the room with the dragons.
So you've listened to Will's episode, right?
Yes, I have. Yeah, he's wild.
Yeah. But also incredibly insightful.
He is
a great storyteller about stuff like
he's had different different episodes with different themes.
Yes. Different sides of it.
But this was a place that was like, you can't take photos, and you're like trying to absorb as much as you can, but you're like, how do I even
You're also
comprehend?
day 5, dog.
Yeah.
How much can a man take in?
And it's you're in a room with it's Mike Gary asking if we're going to do Norfolk in November. So you're also in a room where there's like sliding screens painted by these masters from it's like going to the Louvre and you're like, oh, that dude painted that thing. The guy that painted it made it, and it's here in front of you, and
it's 300 years old.
Right, and the screens in here were painted by the guy, and it's like, because the craftsmanship and the carvings, it's all mind blowing, but you don't associate it with like the person who you read the book about or whatever. It's like about the place. But seeing things where you're like, this person held the brush and touched this thing, and I'm a foot away from it, is very powerful.
Yeah, it's gotta be. Don't ever think. Porter and Andy get on my ass about when I asked them about some specifics, and they're like, you do that, and we, if we're off, we're gonna be. Don't ever think that I think you're authority. But when you say it was a temple to one of the shoguns, like from kung fu movies, that I thought a shogun was like a sheriff or something, like like a administrator to a county or something like that.
Yeah, I could have it wrong, but it was one of the main.
A big deal.
From the Tokugawa clan, I believe.
I was wrong. My reference is through Wu-Tang.
But no, he was like, I believe a shogun, like an emperor, kind of like
just a prominent guy.
Yes,
I was just curious.
and one of the prominent ones.
And that's why everything's gilded in gold.
Yes,
and stuff. But I love stuff like that.
It was sick, any of those places in Japan are very cool, but to see the one that's like that, and it's so different than the other ones, and it's they call it like a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so it's like the highest level of preservation of that type of thing, and they obviously a ton of money into like, you're watching them the upkeep on all of these things happening live, basically, where
'Cause it's
there's things sectioned
ends.
off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they get to the end and then they just go to the beginning again and start fixing shit again,
Absolutely.
probably.
Well, I went to the Louvre once and they were just like, closed for construction.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck?
I've been to Paris 3 times and my wife's been more than that and been to the Louvre, so she's like, we're not going to the Louvre. I'm like, all right, I guess not. They've all been short trips where she's like, I'm not wasting it. We're here for a weekend. We're not going to spend a day in a museum. I'm like,
But to
all
me,
right.
I'm like, the perfect baguette is just as important.
Yeah, there are other things there that are just as good.
Speaking of which, what was the food like in Japan? I was going to ask.
So we did, we had like 2 very good omakase sushi meals.
That's where they give you a piece of hand to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And even I was looking at my notes from the trip today before this, getting ready. And
I should make notes.
well, I did it on the plane on the way back, so I was like, I should have journaled. And then I'm like, well, I got 9 hours on this plane. So I just went through and wrote in my sketchbook like 1 page for each day. Very like, just this is what we did and just kind of what I remembered. But I was remembering from the first one, like watching the guy, and he was making the wasabi every time, which I'm sure that is not that uncommon, but I just never like clocked it or something. And he would do the rice, do the fish, just rub the wasabi, put it on, do it again. And it was just this thing of like what we do, where you're like, you just repeat the same shit. This guy's been doing the same thing for a decade.
Yeah.
Do the rice, do the wasabi, and you could easily grind all the wasabi at the beginning and just spoon it out. But it's like, that's not how it goes. You've got to do it every time to get it that way. And I feel like that's one of those very kind of
But I think there's also a
Japanese
difference.
things, and the things that you think about it, it's like, the repetition and, the way you prepare things for a tattoo or for your artwork or whatever, the attention to care and detail.
I mean, just as somebody who, all right, so the closest thing that we have to wasabi is horseradish.
Yeah.
And horseradish ground right now is different than horseradish ground earlier today.
Yeah.
And so I think that while you could do it all at once, it is different.
Well, and if you go to the grocery store near me in Brooklyn where they make all the sushi's okay, but they definitely take that shit out of a tub or whatever. You're like, they're not the guys out in there grinding it on a stone, like that's just how
Well,
it
in
goes.
America, you're really not getting real wasabi. You're getting like a manufactured horseradish that's got dye in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless you're at a high level place who imports it. It looks like pine cones, kind of like a fresh pine cone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. That was just like one of the notes that I was like, made sure I put down, because I remember watching him do it and just kind of like the rhythm of his like, dip the thing in water, do this thing, do this thing, do this thing. And it was all very...
Repeat.
Yeah, and like, they're not making you like a fucking Philadelphia roll or something. It's like rice, rice,
Yeah, they're not.
fish, wasabi, and you don't have sauce. You're not dipping it. Like when they finally get to the thing that you're supposed to dip it in, then they give you the soy sauce or whatever. But they're not.
Right.
You don't do it that way.
You don't do what we do, where you take your wasabi and you mix it in your soy sauce, and you
Yeah.
make your little concoction, and then you dump it.
Yeah, and you got cream cheese and all
rice
this shit on it. Yeah, you're
deep
like,
fried shit. Nah, I didn't know
Yeah.
that shit.
that was very good. We had 2 nights of like. We went to one sushi place next to where we were staying, and they gave us like, they were like kind of fucking with us, and they gave us whole shrimp, and they're like, just put it on the plate, and you're like, so do we just eat the whole thing, or do we eat the insides out or whatever? And they're like, no, just eat it. And we're like, and it tastes,
Head on
everything, yeah. And it was cooked or fried or something.
Yeah.
But I've never eaten a shrimp like that before, so you're like looking at them, and they're like, you're kind of like looking to see who's gonna crack first, kind of. And I ate it first, and the Mike ate it, but that was like the most. It wasn't that adventurous, but like the kind of thing that was very different. But we had a couple nights of yakitori, which is like the grilled skewers, and one place was kind of specialized in like pork yakitori, and that was one of the better, more unexpected meals that we had, and it was just like pork belly, this kind of pork, that kind of thing. It was very good. We didn't get too into. We had one ramen meal after I got tattooed the first time that was recommended to us, and that was very good. But Japan, it's like our days had like one meal at the end of the day, and otherwise we were just eating things as we went. Yeah, we didn't have time to waste.
RZA was talking about eating in Japan, and he was like, most everywhere you go, it's like, you're staying at this hotel, but you're gonna go eat. If you're in New York City, you're probably not gonna eat in your hotel. You're gonna fucking stay there. But even if it's a nice hotel, you're probably gonna seek out like the better meal. It's like in Tokyo, he's like, you just go upstairs a lot of times, and it's just like the best thing. That's
Well, he probably stays
available.
at a nice hotel also.
I'm sure he stays at the very nicest hotels. He's the president. You know what I'm saying?
We stayed at Airbnb, and you can get a lot of people eat. You can get very good food at like 7-Eleven, or they have this place called Family Mart that's like the equivalent of a 7-Eleven, or the grocery store. Like
Apparently
people
they
eat.
have the best egg salad in the world.
Yeah, Mike was eating.
I'm not an egg salad.
I don't eat egg salad.
Are you?
But he ate a couple. I mean,
Occasionally.
he said it was good.
At a family cookout or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
You have to carry all your trash around with you.
yeah.
And no trash cans anywhere.
Yeah, there's no trash cans. You have to carry your trash around because it's not like a to-go takeout culture. Like even like we would get a coffee and walk to the train, and like they're not getting a coffee and walking to the train. They'd go and they sit and get a
down and eat
coffee,
coffee.
and then they
Drink
keep
coffee.
going. So you want to not accumulate trash, or you have to literally carry it home with you. On our previous trip, there was like Mike and I were outside of some shrine, and we had trash, and we found like a convenience store that had a trash can at the front door, and we like went and threw it in, and the old woman chased us out and made us take our trash out. She was like, "That's our trash can. That's not your trash can." And it was like a scrap from a
Yeah.
plastic wrapper or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
But it's also partially why it's so clean. There's no litter. There's no, like, people just don't accumulate that kind of trash, and they throw their shit away at home, and they're respectful, basically.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, it's just a different
What do
thing.
I know about
But once you get used to it, you're like, yeah, why don't, like,
There's nothing wrong with that, but I just think if there's a trash can that you can see at a convenience store, it's
well, that was just a funny, that was just a weird, funny anecdote about it. But like, generally, like you'd be like, okay, I know like Starbucks or McDonald's will have a trash can. Like the
But
main,
that's your only chance, really.
yeah, but they just don't accumulate trash that way.
And I couldn't imagine wanting to go into either one of those places in Japan. I would say, I guess the
Starbucks,
convenience
you get a
do.
coffee, like like maybe like there are certain things also where like I think the hardest thing eating in Japan is breakfast, because things don't open super early, and they don't have like you wait until like 9 o'clock and you can go get like a pastry, but there's nothing early in the morning. So if you're up an hour early, like people just eat at home, I guess, or you have to go to a 7-Eleven. But something like a Starbucks or a McDonald's will be open, so that if you're like traveling, you got to make an early train or whatever, those can be the options.
Yeah.
I remember in something too. Did you hear anything about? I'm just stuck on the trash can thing because I thought I heard there was something, well, like in the '90s or something. There was some sort of like
Terrorist thing.
terrorist thing where
Yeah,
they put
somebody put a bomb in a trash can.
gas bombs in the trash can.
I heard that also. I don't know. You would think. I I heard that and I believe it to be true.
Yeah.
But also, they have public lockers everywhere, so it's like you put a bomb in the locker too.
Yeah,
Like I don't know that
sure.
that's trash cans specifically.
You say public, like, you mean like you'd see in a bus station back in the day where it's
Yes.
like you pay and you get the key and you take it with you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
That'd be
common.
my trash can. If it was on my route.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
If
guess
I like was going to the same place every
Well,
day.
or they'll have like a lot of things are recycled, like very specific. Like you can like they'll have recycling bins out. So your trash you have to take, but if you have a bottle or because like they don't do a lot of takeaway like a coffee shop or something specifically, but they do have like vending machines that sell hot cans of coffee. So like that's what you'll get if you're getting on the train for your commute or whatever, and then they'll have recycling next
For
to
the
that for
cans.
the cans,
Yes.
that kind of thing.
So, I think we've covered most of this, but let me ask you, I made a note at the very beginning of this, and you said something about dragons, and looking at dragons versus what you can't stop thinking about anyway. Talk to me about dragons.
I think dragons for me, for Japanese tattooing, well, I think dragons are the most interesting thing because they're the thing that you have to draw. You can't
If you're gonna do what you do.
to tattoo it.
Yeah.
Like you can't, typically for a large scale tattoo, there's not really a version of a dragon that maybe for a back piece you could just stick a big dragon on.
Yeah.
But you kind of need to know how, for a sleeve or whatever, how it moves and how, like, they're almost too big to show the whole thing, so
On
you need
that.
to know what to show. So, understanding how they move or having just understanding how to draw them relative to, like, you can just go and trace a koi fish or a tiger out of a book and put it on and draw the background around it and be like, that's fine. It's much harder to do with a dragon. So I think thinking about how to draw them is just something that really was like a turning point in, and this was almost like around the last time I went to Japan, really, and like when I was working with Jill and kind of that transition. I feel like that was like not a leveling up, but a real turning point in my understanding of how to like approach these things, and it's the most popular thing, so you have to know how to do it, you know?
Sure. But are you hyper focused on it and tightening the screws on it?
Yeah.
Because, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Andrew used to come in here with the most beautiful girl head he'd ever seen, and then he'd come back and it'd be like a sheet of hearts that are just so endearing to like beautiful traditional American stuff and just perfect. And then he'd come in with like, oh, I drew this album cover for this band, and then he'd come in, and the past fucking 2 years, this motherfucker only shows up with dragons.
Yeah.
And it's just goddamn dragons, unless there's someone asked for something, it's dragons. And he tells me, he's just like, I can't stop thinking about. Like when he's eating, it's dragons. And then Kylie, I was talking to about last year at Norfolk, and she was like, 3 years ago, I was so scared of dragons, and now all I want to do is dragons. Like I'm hoping everybody asks for a dragon. And if you just look at her dragons right now, they're fucking sick.
Yeah.
And just people have, and Timothy, I've said this 100 times, but he's like, you got to draw 1,000 dragons before you can draw a dragon. And just like it's a thing that so many people that I know and respect in the tattoo game are just.
Well, it's like. They can be, it's part of it is knowing how to draw them and knowing the parts and the kind of the basic, but then it's like how do you compose the dragon and how do you, there's like theoretically there are limitless ways to draw a tiger, I guess, but there's kind of 8 ways. Is it up, is it down, is the mouth open, or is it closed? And you can do this or that with the tail or whatever, but like dragons, because there are more parts and they're all moving parts, it's like, where does the head go? Where does the neck go? Is the claw turned, is the claw open or closed or turned this way or upside down or like, and the more you explore it, the more doors open with ideas to how to make it work. And then that's just the sketch. And then you take that to how does it look on an arm or a back or a leg or, whatever. And it just seems very, it seems.
But doesn't it become how does it look on this arm?
Yeah.
Or this leg.
Yeah, and you get a person who it's like, it's, all of a sudden, I mean, I've done, not the worst ones, but like the biggest challenges are like the person's arm is so skinny that how do you, like
how do
you have plenty
show it? Yeah.
Or, and how do you, like I like to try to take up as much space with the dragon as possible.
Right.
Like how do you do that? Or do you make a choice to actually, you're just going to show the top half and 2 claws in the tail, so that you can blow everything up instead of showing the 4 claws. There's all these things, and how do you imply that the other things are there, even if you're not showing them, but you're seeing a little bit of a spike or a fire or whatever.
But like the weight of Japanese stuff that you do, even if you zoom out on the dragon, because sometimes you'll see that where it's like you have a small arm or a small leg or whatever, then they'll zoom out and you can just like sew all those pieces. But the type of tattooing that you do, even if you zoom out, it's still going to be somewhat.
You're not going to see the whole thing at once.
Right.
Yeah.
You just won't. It just doesn't lend itself to that,
And I think that's almost.
Like you almost.
I don't say it's almost harder, but like you could shrink down to something small and stencil the whole thing on, but like that doesn't have the same impact. So how?
That's what I'm saying. For what you do, it doesn't have the same impact. So if you keep it sizable, then almost even a whisker could make a huge change to the effect that you're getting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And seeing these things, like specifically looking at the carvings this time relative to like paintings, there are carvings. I mean, it's interesting because they're 3-dimensional, but they're also flat because they're on a wall or something. It's not like fully in space, but you can go around it and you're like, oh, that's what the backside of that would look like. I could never really draw it that way, but maybe I will now that I've seen the backside of the elbow of that.
Well, like the claw might be here, but the elbow is there if you look in a little bit or go around the flame or the wind or whatever's accompanying it. Like in a carving, you can actually peek in a little bit,
Right.
and see this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and seeing them, like seeing the ceiling where there's, I think it's actually 100, but there's 100 dragons up there. If you're not as tuned into it, you don't. The first time if I had gone there 8 years ago, I would have been very impressed, but I wouldn't have been as locked into the nuances of all of those things. So going back with like a fresh set of eyes, but also more experience, you can really like pull those things apart, and the things that would have stood out to me before, you know, maybe I'm focusing on different types of details or whatever. But I mean, it really is a thing that the subject matter that I think about the most, and the thing that like Andy probably like, given ultimate total freedom, it's like, or just if I want to draw, I just want to draw just to draw, that's probably what I'll draw. I have sketchbooks full of dragons. I don't really have sketchbooks full of other things in the same way, you know.
Although, I heard you talking about snakes earlier. That's something you draw a fucking ton of too.
Yeah. And there are things that I've drawn enough to be in practice of, that I can like pull on and to go back to and draw, but snakes, there is a lot. I mean, anything, there's still a lot to figure out, but there's just not as many moving pieces. And drawing dragons will help you draw snakes also, so it's also good, you know.
I feel like I've been looking at this tooth on a dragon, the one that's like way back in the mouth, but no, the kind of one that goes up a little bit.
But it's like if you look at that one, and there's this tooth, and then there's this here, and it's like if it's doing that, then it's pushing that. It's like that's the stuff that you kind of, and you might, if you're not thinking about the structure of it, maybe you just see the tooth and you want to copy it, and that's a cool detail and you can get away with it. But once you realize that when that goes up, this goes up, and the eyebrow goes this way, and it doesn't always have to be that way, and you might not recognize that that's what's going on, but when you see that one, you're like, no, that's the one. You know, like it's all of those pieces playing out. Or, you know, I think dragons often, people get away with more kind of distortion of the features, so it doesn't matter if it's.
I'm like looking at the dragons behind you.
I was too.
But like you can twist this part in a way that maybe you wouldn't do it if it were a snake. You want it to feel more like the structure is more rigid, like based in reality. And a dragon, I feel like because it's this fantastic creature, you can kind of like play with those things a little bit more. And you could do it in tattoo anyway, but I think people get away with it more.
I also feel like there's things about a snake that you can apply to a dragon, but it doesn't work the other way around as well. And what I mean mainly by that is body, movement, and roll.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever held a snake?
Yeah.
You know, the way it moves is so fluid and so fucking. You've held a snake, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, like, you know, like.
Well, and it's moving in these coils, but like it's always.
Well, it's got a vertebrae. It's just fucking really. So, like, and that dragon up there on the upper right, that curl that goes away from you, the way it sort of squeezes and pinches those belly scales, you know, like that. It's got to come from a snake. You've never seen a dragon.
No, but I think a dragon. I mean, you know, nobody's seen a dragon, but it's moving in space in a different way, and that's like something like this, or like a Philip Liu type of thing. Really, you're seeing this like depth and whatever. And I don't tattoo like that, but I still think about those things, and like, when you first start understanding how to compose it, you're like, do I just have the pieces in place? Is there a head? Are there 4 claws? Does it all like make sense? But as that evolves, you're going like, well, if the head is coming at me this way, then what should... It's the same way that you think about, is a snake recoiling? Is it striking, or is it just wiggling around? Like, what are you doing with it?
And also, a snake is like on land or in water.
Right.
Where a dragon is not necessarily. Almost never.
But a lot of this, like, it's interesting because a lot of the, like, there's a lot of cool sculptures, but there was one that I took a picture of, and it was like on a fountain, so it's kind of climbing on a fountain, and the shape of the body, you know, you don't think of dragons climbing really in that way. Most of the time you think of it in the clouds or in water, so it's like, oh, what if it's holding on here and the tail's whipping out this way or whatever. It just can do a lot of...
Every time I do something like this, I feel like I lose the people I'm talking to, but in the fucking one of those Hobbit movies, the one with the dragon, like when that motherfucker climbs out of that, it's wild to look at. And there's 2 times. There's one where the Smaug or whatever climbs out of the fucking mountain, but there's in the other one, like the dragon that's been locked up forever, it's white and it climbs up. Man, that shit's crazy. The way they show its movement. It's crawling, like you said, crawling them out. Like it's crawling out of this fucking place.
Well, I think it gives you, like, seeing something, you know, you can get, but you can get very locked into these ideas of, like, well, dragon has to be in water, it has to be in clouds, and then what if the client comes along or the composition comes along where they want it to be, for whatever reason, it's intertwined with rocks, and you're like, well, is it climbing on the rocks or is it over the rocks? And that's when you want to have, like, these things and, like, accumulating these experiences and references and whatever. It's just to fill your toolkit for when the right thing comes along, because 90% of the time I'm doing a version of the same 4 dragons because that's the classic thing and that's what works. But you know, you get a weird cover up or a thing that you just have to be able to understand how to manipulate these things, and that's where having all these extra pieces comes into play.
Speak to something you said just a second ago, where it's like you might not tattoo that way or whatever, but you think of the dragon in that way. Like if you're going to imply movement, then you have to think of it that way, right? Even if you're not necessarily drawing it the most intricate or most detailed, like if you're implying what happens as it goes away or as it tucks behind, then you have to think of it in those terms to draw it, no matter what stylistically you're doing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that shit.
And I love to look at different things. Like obviously, I look for references that seem close to the way that I draw things.
Right.
But I also love, like, Bill Canales just put out a series of sketchbooks, and it's like, I don't draw dragons like Bill, and I love Bill, and I love his dragons, but I have no intention of drawing dragons like him. But I love to look at those shapes and go like, oh, what if I did the neck? Like, what if I take that exact shape and draw my dragon that way and see, like, what does that unlock for me? And it might not be how I want to tattoo it, but it's a good exercise to go, well, at least I'll take just this one detail of a claw.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not really copying that thing.
That's cool though, man.
Or Philip Liu or any of those people where you're like, you can, flatten the image, simplify it, and like, but maybe they're looking at it in a way where, the perspective changes. Both literally the perspective changes on the creature, but your perspective changes in how you're drawing it.
Yeah. Now, do you have a favorite? Is dragon the thing?
It's my favorite thing because I think it allows the most creativity, and it's, I think, the strongest image, and it kind of...
But doesn't it allow for error? Or
yeah, but you can overcomplicate it so people don't see when you fuck up. That you can hide, and that's another thing. Even when you're in the earlier stages, and I don't consider myself having mastered dragons, but I have a better understanding than I did 5 years ago. But every day.
Yeah.
But you also, because you can manipulate them and you can utilize background, if there's a part that you aren't good at drawing, put that part behind clouds, put a flame over that. Like, you can kind of utilize them at any level, really.
Yeah, and that's what you're supposed to do, right? Like until you've conquered that shape, your pinup girl's hands should be behind her back, right? Until you've figured it out, right?
I think dragons,
in the hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people who drew these things 100 years ago or 300 or whatever, and they hid their weak points as well. It just it wasn't hyper focused on it, but it's smart. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I was trying to explain that to my daughter the other day. She's drawing a lot, and one of her girlfriends drew, was drawing like a cartoon series basically. They call it a show, but it's basically a fucking comic strip almost. You know what I mean? Yeah. And she's like, look at this hand, and it's like, her friend had given it to her, and it's like a really well drawn hand. It's simplified because it's kind of cartoonish, but still, like it's 5 fingers. It's pretty good. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I always hide my hands, and I'm like, yeah. Well, the reference you're looking at hit it as well, because it's fucking hard. Yeah. There's nothing harder than drawing a hand or a foot. You know what I mean?
It's true.
And if you're not, but also it doesn't matter unless the tattoo is a tattoo of a hand holding a flower or a dagger. It's like, that's not the most important thing, so you can de-emphasize it and it doesn't take away from the sketch or the tattoo or whatever. Yeah.
That's not the most important thing.
Like, you want to build up your skills, but focus on your strong points also while you're working on the weak points. Like,
yeah.
And I think you can definitely get away with that with anything. I think dragons something that within all tattooing that I'm always drawn to are the things that are like, it can be strong, or it's not soft, but it can be masculine or feminine, or it can be tough, or it can be, kind of reserved or whatever. And I think you can do you can make a dragon can work well and be strong and powerful for anybody, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be screaming, coming at you.
Yeah.
And I think it's just an interesting, I think it fits well. And it feels very universal. Like a thing I was talking to my client today about, and I've had this conversation with a few people recently about just doing Japanese tattoos, not being Japanese, and how things like this, to me, dragon is like, it's in the world of universal tattoo imagery. In universal imagery, culturally, it's like they exist in all these different cultures, so you don't have to be, it's not so specific like a very specific Shinto god, where it's like, if you don't know what that is, you're not going to understand it. But things like dragons, tigers, whatever, it's like they feel like they've entered into, and even something to me like Fudomio is a very specific Buddhist god, but it's also so tattoo at this point that it's become a universal image. But dragons to me are like the most universal image. We were looking at them in the Sailor Jerry book, and we're looking at these ones right now,
Yeah, and there's called dragons on. But the truth is, dragons aren't Japanese.
No.
They're not real.
Yeah.
So a bunch of Japanese dudes drew them.
Well, right, and even, it's a whole other conversation, but all of that imagery came to Japan from China for the most. It's like, that's a whole other thing.
But they're not Chinese either.
Right.
Yeah. Fiction.
Well, that's the thing.
Fictional's what you
As far as we know.
Yeah.
But the ones that we're drawing are referencing those things. But,
Of course, but that's like a loophole. That lets you off the hook. You might be tattooing in the style of Japanese, but you don't have to answer to that. You know what I mean?
And I'm not. That's like a whole other world.
I'm not trying to make it heavy either.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, the truth is, these are all things that we just sort of.
But I think that the things
fire,
that, as just a tattooer and a fan of tattoos in general, the things that are the most striking are the things that my mom or my 4-year-old can go, that's a cool dragon. They don't it's not like, what is that? And you have to, and it's cool to get into the weeds with some of the other things with people who care and if the client is really interested in something, but the kind of strong universal things seem to resonate the most with most people.
Yeah. I also wanted to bring up, and maybe we can accompany this if you'll give me pictures when we put the post out, so if people want to reference this. But the tattoo you worked on today, I was really excited about that tattoo. And one of the things I like the most about it, so for folks listening, Chris has worked on a client here more than once who has a sleeve and a chest panel on one side, and you added a chest panel on the other side that's coming off a non-Japanese sleeve.
Yeah.
And it looked, and you said it to me before I said it to you about how you blended the wind into that existing tattoo. And it's hard to explain without pictures. You saw it. Mm-hmm. But what I was super stoked about is, and it sounds simple, but the one flower on this side and the two flowers on this side. I thought it looked beautiful. And I thought it looked balanced. And it, sometimes when you look at a chest panel or things that you expect to match and they don't, it feels off. It very much didn't feel off. As a matter of fact, it felt smarter. The weight of it was right on, man. I just thought it was super cool. And that other side, it healed really well and it just looked great.
I think those things for me are, part of it is hiding in the, if you try to make something exactly symmetrical,
you lose.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. And the other sleeve wasn't a matching Japanese sleeve, but also they were both chrysanthemums. They were just different kinds of chrysanthemums, and he had the kind that I did on that chest panel was on his forearm on the other arm. But even with the back, I was talking to Andy and Porter about it, and you need to get it balanced and complementary. But if you try to make it symmetrical, it's like, well, his body's not even symmetrical. What's the point of that? It's not going to work well.
Yeah.
But I think it fit in well, and I think he even said at the end, he has his back done. He had the one sleeve with the Japanese sleeve with the chest panel, and then this one just didn't have the chest panel. He's like, I finally feel complete in a way, even though he's will continue to get tattooed. But he's like, at least I look at myself and it feels like it's all balanced in a way that it previously wasn't. And I don't mind. It's sometimes people get really hung up on that. It's like, well, it's on a Japanese sleeve. How are you gonna you're stuck with what you have, and it's like you can adapt those things and make it work and make the shapes all feel complementary. It doesn't matter.
But that's the obvious question, is that's not Japanese, how are you going to make it work? But I don't think you let it bother you. It does from watching. It didn't seem like you see the way he tied it in. It wasn't necessarily classic looking scalloped wind bars on the way you tied it in, but it fucking looked great, and it made sense. And you weren't like so intent on being in the box of, well, it's got to look this way. I don't think anyway.
No, I just knew it had to look like it felt like it matched, like it balanced the other side. But I've been in a string of.
But you could have done it chunky and black.
Yeah. When I was trying to figure that out, like I started like when you were coming by, and I think I'd said it to him earlier, but I was tattooing him for 5 hours, and that was enough for him. But I could have spent 2 hours just getting into like, let's blend this and like blend the grays in and whatever. And I don't think it called for it necessarily, but just as a tattooer, you could really tweak out on that stuff. Or how do I make those clouds that he had turn into wind bars or whatever, but I feel like that wouldn't have been the right choice even.
But the transition you made fit both sides. Yeah. To me.
Well, it was like I looked at the existing side that I had done, and it's like, how do I balance off of that?
Yeah.
But I do I'm not afraid to do like ambitious cover-ups or make shit work. I mean, there's so many people that don't have a perfect, it's like we started out talking about this person who came in who's the ideal scenario that wants a perfect bodysuit. That's a unicorn. Like, most people aren't in that situation, and they go, I have all these shitty tattoos, how do we cover half of it, make it look like I have a good sleeve, like pull it all together, and you just have to do it.
You gotta figure it out.
Or you're not tattooing. So it's like,
it seems nearly impossible for someone to come to you and say, not you specifically, but any tattooer, and go, I want a bodysuit, and they have no tattoos.
Yeah.
Like, even like from a tattooer's point of view, you guys got to think to yourself at some point, this person doesn't even know what they're saying. Mm-hmm. Like, also, if you're covered in tattoos, like, you have to put your being tattooed experience against that request, right?
Well, and the idea that
so demanding.
Yeah, the reality, it's not that uncommon that people might say that to you.
Yeah.
But that they won't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
The follow through years in the making.
Yeah, it's just a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And even to their...
Do you have $100,000 in 5 years?
Yeah.
Do you? And a high pain tolerance and commitment?
And a flexible schedule.
Yeah. Like,
And it just shit changes. It's like, that's a long... Like, even a back piece... Sleeve, most people get
$100,000 might be a high number, but, it's a lot.
Yeah. It's a little high. But
you take a break for the summer, you do this.
But I tattoo a few people like that like, I have one great client that I did his front first, then one leg, and now we're doing the other leg, and he'll most likely get his back at, like, he'll most likely get a full suit, just in a different order. But he does that. He gets tattooed September through May, takes the summer off, which I kind of more or less encourage. It's like, you gotta live your life a little bit too, and like take a whatever. But I think it's a good way to do
how bad it hurts also.
Yeah. And it gives a good amount, and kind of get recharged and excited about it, and then you go back to your life. But he also just likes to go to the beach or whatever, so he's like, I gotta do that. But yeah, it's like the people, most people can get through a sleeve. Most people get through the sleeve. Half of the people maybe get through a back piece, and then to complete your whole body, it's like, I don't know what the number of, doesn't happen that much,
Knock on wood for a unicorn,
I think
but we're witnessing Billy bodysuit out here. Fucking Billy 2 sleeves now. Billy
is he saying he's doing
fucking Andy started his front, his whole front the other day with a shoki and a shoki and a shishi.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude started a sleeve, no tattoos. Andy probably told you this.
I don't know if I saw it.
Started the sleeve. They weren't done with the first sleeve. I think I'm gonna go ahead and start my other arm. Started the other arm, so they finished both arms now. Did the whole, went straight to the leg. Leg's done. I think leg's totally done. I think, right? So, yeah. They just outlined his front 3 days ago. So
and
it's
the
like
stuff that he has is nice, and it's nice. It's in real time.
Yeah.
It's not like Andrew has people that'll get a huge thing from him, and they'll come back to him 15 years later and be like, "Oh, I want you to spruce this up and do another thing," because they can't imagine getting tattooed by somebody else. This guy,
it's like cohesive and looks like it's all of a certain era.
Yes.
Not to mention he's in his 40s too, at least, right?
But that's the way. I mean, those are the people often that it's like they are at a point in their life where they understand what their life is like. They know they can fit it in. They understand the level of commitment. They can afford it. All of those things.
And
it's like
also, it's like I was talking to your guy about today. That guy, Billy Two Sleeves, as we call him, he very much exists as an elite in the world that he lives in. people don't have fucking beautiful, cohesive looking tattoos in his world. Like, even as tattooed as you are, like, your sleeves don't match. You know, like, none of your stuff is like your back, but other than that, you know what I mean? And not to say one's better than the other, but you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
He operates in a world where people aren't used to seeing beautifully executed tattoos with scalloped around the wrist and just right in every way. And people see it and they're blown away at the coverage and the quality. And then he's also very much affected by the sense of community that he gets here. And the reason I say that is because we have like we have 2 Christmas parties every year. It's one for just the crew and the spouses, and it's one for our favorite people. And he got invited this year. And he very much pulled me aside and said, never experienced anything like this. I've been to a lot of tattoo shops. What you're doing is different than what they're doing, and this makes me feel good, and thank you, and all those things. So I guarantee that the feeling he gets when he's getting tattooed and Jake walks over and says, let me see that thing, and oh, that healed great. All those things make an impact on him and makes him want to expand his bodysuit. You know what I mean?
He's hype. They'll just pop in here. He pulled a pop in the other day.
Exactly.
He's fucking day drinking, playing mini golf, and he's just like, just going by, thought I'd pop in and see you guys. I'm like, what's up, Billy? You know? Yeah.
And he very much like spent like a couple minutes here, couple minutes there, moved around the room.
He pops around to everybody's station to see what they're working on.
He feels welcome, and I think those are contributing factors to him wanting to get that next thing done.
When people don't, I mean, especially men, but in general, you know, as you get older, you just don't have the same social life, and it gives you a social outlet, I guess is the easy way to say that, right? It's like, I mean, my client today, we were talking, and we're kind of the same age, and we were talking about friends or whatever. I'm like, I don't have friends. I see clients every 2 weeks, and those are the people that I like. I mean, I do have friends, but I don't see them in the same way. Those are the people that I see all the time, and those are the people that I talk to them about my family. They tell me about theirs. Like, that's those, and I think a lot of people maybe don't even know that that's an experience that they are missing in their life until it starts, and then they feel very comfortable with the crew or the artist, the tattooer or whatever, and it starts to become a thing where like, oh, I haven't seen my friends this month or this week or whatever. Like, I got to keep going, and it keeps people on the hook. And it's not, you know, that's just, and it's nice. I mean, that's something that I like about. Not that drew me to doing large scale tattooing, but something that I realized very quickly that I liked was the kind of relationship building with the people and kind of working with the same people and getting to know them, and they get to know you, and it makes both the tattooing experience easier, but it's also just fun. They become your friends basically, you know, or they take the same place that a friendship can take in some capacity. They're not your, you know.
I'm no different than Billy Two Sleeves, bro. Andrew tattooed me in 1996.
Yeah.
You know how much time me and Andrew have spent together? And it's very much because we're fucking comfortable with one another. And as time goes on, like, you want to check in and stay checked in. And, you know, you've spent a ton of time with Andrew. Like, how long ago did he do your back? And, well,
10 years this year.
But did he tattoo you prior to that or not?
No, that was my first tattoo from him.
Okay. Was it before you were working here?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's jumping on me right now is
2016.
Yeah, no, I was looking at the
Brian Paul that he just got. Huh?
Yeah, that thing's crazy.
How cool is that?
Stoked to get some from him finally.
Stoked to get that old one out of my face.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, man. It was ugly. It was ugly for a long time, too. I let that one ride for like a decade looking like it did, so it was
I feel like, I don't know how you at this point decide which ones stay and which ones go, or what to overlap, or like how to make those choices, because you have such dense coverage.
Still got stuff I want to cover, still got stuff I probably will cover. I'm getting tattooed at the show. I don't know where those are going, but it's happening. I'm excited for it.
He's also doing a second
Yeah. We were
Last
looking
over
at all that
sleeve
stuff.
has kind of started, but I should slow down on that because I don't want a second sleeve in like 5 years. And be like, fuck,
Then you got to get a third one.
I should have saved the spot for Jeff Zuckers, you know,
Then you
which I
got to
will.
black out with white on top.
Yeah. Or tribal layer. We were talking about tribal layer, which is a great look.
Shouts to Chris Fox.
Yes.
Yeah, that stuff is.
Yeah, you know what, man? First of all, I'm a big sissy compared to you guys, especially you. But I'm like, you know, that used to be a red Sacred Heart. And I'm just like, man, you know, Mario has this fucking killer Paul Rogers heart. It's like the cross, it's almost the same shape, and the cross is so black. I'm like, man, I can just get Mario to rework this thing. But then that thing is going to be bright and screaming.
Yeah, you're opening up a door that now you have to get
that's
everything.
what it is. You're opening up a door, yeah.
So I'm just like probably not going to touch any of it.
Yeah, you can't just get one tattoo on your arm reworked. It doesn't work that way.
But I'd be so much happier if this didn't look like that. You know, I mean, it's solid and it's in there, but I don't love it at all.
Yeah, but do you think that you would ever just do what you're doing is just putting tattoos on top of it, right? It's like, don't even worry about him redoing the Sacred Heart as the Sacred Heart. Just get a fucking Sacred Heart on the top of your forearm on top of it. You know, just go full second layer and take the whole thing apart.
I'm too soft for that.
Yeah.
I'm too comfortable with all of it.
I mean,
I want to.
but you see, like we're at the age or the stage with all of these tattooers where you're seeing how you're seeing people do a cool second layer and you're like, fuck, I want the second layer too.
Yeah,
right?
like Angelo did the pirate on him, and I'm just like,
yeah.
The whole experience was right. The whole moment. The Angelo was primed Angelo, was he not?
Oh, he was.
He was in
He did not want to do it either.
He was like, why you put this on top of a great tattoo?
Yeah.
And Jake's like, well, because I don't have any room to put it anywhere else.
Yeah, I wanted something from him I could see too. I love that guy. So
you know, when Angelo comes here, I don't know what it is. He complains to me, but he's nice to everybody else, and the whole shop is in an incredibly good mood when Angelo's here.
Yeah.
And I remember just hanging out. I didn't hang out the whole time because I had shit going on, but he was in such storytelling, veteran, OG mode when he did that I'm sure it made it a richer experience for you.
Yeah, he's great.
And, yeah.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't smile on you, did he?
No, he did kanji on me. This at Norfolk. I finally pinned him down and got him to tattoo me. And
did you say this is what I want? You had him drawn right because he doesn't.
yeah, he was like, I told him, and he was like, so draw it, and then I'll tattoo it. Give me go make the stencil, whatever.
It's funny you say because I was looking at that tattoo earlier.
Yeah, it's a little darker, but it says Irizumi, but it says tattoo, and it's on. I saw it. We were at Key City last year, and they had that giant Good Time Charlie sheet. And I've been wanting to get something from Angelo. I'm like, what am I gonna get from Angelo? And it's the one that says it's got the kanji and it says tattoo in parentheses under it. I'm like, that's what he's gonna tattoo on me. And then that weekend it didn't work out. And then at Pagoda it didn't work out. And I was like, you have to tattoo me this time.
Well, you know, when I see a great tattooer getting a tattoo from Angelo, I have a whole other level of respect for them because he's just that guy.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Chris Romolini, who came from Philadelphia to Pagoda just to get tattooed by Angelo. Like, he wasn't hanging out for the weekend. He just came and got tattooed. And I was just like, shout out to Chris, you know?
Yeah.
It's just something it's just cool.
Yeah, special guy for sure.
One, it's like you could get anything from him. So what are you gonna get? And I think that's like a whole other thing. What are you gonna get?
Killer Paul Rogers go ahead on Brian when he was here last time. I think rules.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brian has the sheet, right?
Yeah.
Brian on the original sheet too.
Brian
It came off of, right? Yeah.
Hard to beat that.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. Anyway, Paul Rogers sheets. There's our comment.
Brian likes to collect too. I know he's just sitting on a bunch of shit. We have no idea what he
He
has.
sure does.
Yeah.
Well, he's moved around enough that I'm sure he's picked up things along. I mean, he's like tattooed all over the place.
Yeah.
In Bay Ridge, Groove Tattoo.
Yeah.
I don't know those dudes, but the main dude, what's his name? He does the videos all the
I
time.
know who you're talking about, but I don't know.
He's just the best. And me and Brian talked about how cool his videos were. He'll just talk about how important clients are, and he'll thank them for coming in and when they came in and what they got. And he's just so sincere about appreciating his place in the business and his place. I wish I could think of his fucking name right now, but his place in the business, his shop in his life, and what the clients mean to him. And he's not too cool for any of that shit. And I talked to Brian about that forever. And then after about 2.5 years, he goes, yeah, I used to work at Groove Tattoo. And I was like,
Yeah, dude, that's what he'll do.
what? He's like, yeah, I got my start with Larry Davis. I'm like, what? What do you? And then one day he hits me with, my dad used to tattoo. And I'm like,
I haven't even heard that.
yeah, his dad used to tattoo. I'm like, how did we first get exposed to it? My dad used to tattoo.
Wow.
What are you talking about? And he just puts it out when he wants to, and even then he touches very little. He'll be like, yeah,
Yeah.
and he still won't elaborate. It's great.
It's true.
Oh, Brian. I like, you know, because even this trip, I was like, how long have you been here? And he's been here for 3 years, which is a long time.
Yeah.
And that's probably almost how long I've been coming here. I maybe came here one time before he was here, but I think of him as being new. But now that there's another new person, he's like, you know, he's not the newer person anymore. Mm-hmm. And I like talking to him, but you get very little.
Yeah.
And then you're like...
But what you do get is encouraging, or at least for me, I'm like...
But once you crack him, he gets... like,
yeah.
And because we're not... You know, I'm not here all the time. I don't know him that well, but he's a really nice guy. But I forget those pieces of... Like, I think of him as a San Diego tattooer, but it's like he's actually a New Jersey person, and he started in New York, and we have a lot of, like, mutual connections and overlap in those places, but I always think of him as like, no, you moved here from California, you're a California guy.
That's what I thought, but he's way more connected in New York than you realize.
Yeah.
And then definitely more than he'll let on, unless you're asking him a very specific
He's
question.
the most interesting man in the world. He's got some. We were talking about Alex Gray one day randomly, and he's like, oh yeah, we used to go to, me and my buddies used to go to parties at his house. He would throw these parties at his mansion or whatever, and I was like, what the fuck, dude? Did it ever get culty? And he's like, yeah, it got culty. That's when we'd leave.
Or like just some random weirdo tattooer will come up and be like, oh yeah, he did this on me.
Yeah.
What the fuck do you mean? Let's talk about Brian Tiger, who tattoos out a cat tattoo. Brian Tiger tattoos or something like that.
Love you, Brian.
He's the best. The fucking best.
Well, he's definitely a sleeper, good tattoos, and he's an unassuming person, sort of, and his
Very
tattoos
much,
are
Which,
very nice.
you know, to be such a, he's a fucking big guy, and he could be very, like, overbearing if you want to, but he's not at all. And he tattoos a ton of young ladies from the local university and local people, and he's the most casual with everybody that he's dealing with. He's just great, man. And another huge thing, I was talking about Richie earlier. Brian flew out here twice to try out. He's a family man, right? Married, children. He flew out here for us to talk about him and decide if we wanted him twice. That's a huge thing. Like I talked about the phone call Richie made.
Yeah.
We wanted Jake for a long time, but there was like this line of like, you don't poach or you don't do this, that, and third. And then I got kind of pissed off because Bruno was the one that was giving me all the rules all these years. And then I called Bruno and I'm like, at what point does me not pursuing my own destiny, I'm getting in my own way? Fuck wherever he works. Like, well, he needs to be here. He's here all the fucking time getting tattooed. He needs to be here. And then like Sarah's telling his old lady in the third, this motherfucker dressed up. He fucking dressed up to come talk to me about getting that job. So like I'm lucky to have guys that give a fuck. And Brian, I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
To say I'm gonna fly coast to coast a couple times.
Or that I'm gonna move my family. Like that's a commitment to.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm gonna make it work. It's not like I'm gonna go try it out.
Maybe right before they moved. Also, like moved with a newborn here. On top of
that
all that.
makes sense, right?
Yeah, two daughters, I think.
But it's also a testament to the shop that it both attracts those people and it works out most of the time, right? I mean, who's the last? I'm sure there's history where people left, but it's like people stay, and even people that are new have stayed. It's not just it used to be good and those people are still here.
No. There's a couple that have gone, but I mean,
or if they have left, it's for
480 or over 22 years each.
How long was Richie here for?
8 years.
And he left because of family. He had a kid. It's a different situation. It wasn't a
falling out. And he's come back and tattooed and so on. I think Trevor's like 13, 14 years now.
Probably.
How many are you?
It'll be 8. October 1st will be 8. Yeah.
Sorry, I lose track. But yeah, I mean, people. Sarah's over 15. I think. Kate just had her 11th anniversary. Like it's like the farm. I tell people all the time. Like once you're in, you can't get out.
Yeah.
It's a little firm. Have you done any street shop stuff? Speaking of that, like since you've been in
Yeah, I just worked
the
at
work
times. You
space-
missed it.
the workroom. Not,
No, we were talking about. It was all like walking.
oh, was that,
yeah.
was that before I got here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't
No,
bring
but
it up again.
I'll
listen.
No, have you? What are you saying? Have I ever worked at street shops? In
No.
general
I
in
mean,
my
like
life?
recently. Have you done? Because you were at what, Black and what was it called?
Electric Anvil.
Electric
But that was
Anvil.
3.5 years
So
ago
it's-
that I
okay.
moved into my studio. But it was just like we were talking about. Like Three Tides is like a very much a walk-in environment. So that was like a recent like I gotta like sit here and wait for the tattoos to come in and do the
Right.
things that come through the like I did something cool. I did something less cool, but still fun. Whatever. And like
Yeah.
that's just kind of that world.
Well, because it seemed like when I was back here earlier, you were getting a dose of like Porter's
Yeah.
chick was really
Well,
tough to
what I
work
was
with, and you
telling.
were back here kind of reflecting on it, and I was like, oh yeah, you didn't fucking get to hear that every day, man.
Yeah,
like that. Like,
I mean, I have. I shouldn't say.
Punisher status.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Like, you're not ready to get tattooed today. We all know it, but you got to figure it out on your own, or
I'm
come to
pretty
that conclusion.
spoiled with my situation, but I'm also like the thing that I like that kind of situation doesn't bother me, and I know I can handle
Oh,
that
sure.
fine.
Yeah.
The thing that stresses me out about street shop tattooing are people that want you to draw something and they don't know the way that you do it. Like custom street shop tattooing is very stressful for me, but street shop tattooing that is like I want these symbols and I just have to figure out how to manage your personality, I can deal with that pretty well.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good at I could have handled that situation.
Oh yeah, I
She
have
would
no
have
doubt.
got tattooed
I
if
have no
would've-
doubt.
if I
I
would've
wish
done
I had saved it or sent it to anybody. But I saw this video on Instagram the other day, and it was a very serious looking woman, dressed very seriously, and she was like, I can't overstate that there are millions of people out there hoping to see their drawing before the day they get
Like dramatic as fuck.
yeah. And they're like, this is never, ever going to happen.
Yes.
No one.
Preach.
And it's like fair. When I say no one, I mean almost no one gets to see their tattoo before the day they're getting tattooed.
That's amazing.
I mean, it's nearly impossible. It's just like that's what, just like there's a gentleman talking to Jake earlier today, and he was very nice. And he was just like, it'd probably be easier if I went ahead and set aside a time. Jake's
Yeah,
like,
that's what
requires some thinking on your part first, because I have to know what I'm doing to give you the right amount of time. He's like, but you can tell he very much wanted to secure the space for himself, not realizing that like there's
But I was
30 other
thinking-
people trying to secure space with you.
I overheard that, and to me, my line of thinking was like, yeah, put down a deposit so you have to decide.
Yeah.
Like, if that gives you, if you need a date on the calendar to make you, not force
Our
you to
thinking
make a
is you
decision.
don't get to put out a deposit until you know.
Well, and what you said was right. Like, I can't give you an appointment because I don't know how long it'll take because
Yeah.
I don't know what you want.
And I had the advantage of knowing that tattoo he wants me to cover is his first and only tattoo from 20.
I didn't know it was a cover-up. I didn't
Did I
realize
miss
that was
that
part of
he
it.
wants to cover it with what it is?
He had said that in the email. I had him stop by to see
He
it.
has
first.
an image that he wants a bigger version of the same.
Yeah. But then after looking around today, I was like, you don't have to just get another scorpion. You're covering a scorpion. If you want something else.
Man, I wanted to.
But he had put zero thought into it either. So it's like,
I tried to like
get some stuff together.
I tried to like get on the page with him of like, what do you dig? Couldn't get him the same thing, but
Yeah.
he was looking at cool shit. He
Yeah.
really was, and I just wanted to like steer him just a little bit. Always try to help.
Well,
besides
sometimes,
the
to me,
situation.
they never go for it, but you're like, just get a cool tattoo. Like, that, I didn't see what it was. How bad was it? Just get something that you like better.
Well, this ain't Arizona, motherfucker. He's getting the scorpion because he thinks it's cool, and there's a lot of shit that fits that same category.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right? So
Yeah.
I think maybe he could have been steerable, but he was too nervous with us.
Well, and he had, sort of like what I was talking about with Flash and whatever, but it's like, there's so many options. What do I look at, sort of, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. And what he wanted, I'm sure, was to be shown the scorpion that he wanted. Or whatever, right? He's like, where's your scorpion section? I'm like, where can I pick the one that I want?
Yeah.
Which isn't really how, like,
We don't
people don't
have
understand,
scorpion.
like, inspiration in that
It's
way.
very few, actually. Because I was like, I know there's a couple scattered around here. There's not any in one spot. Take a look around, and we went through that whole thing. And he was very nice. He was very thankful for the time. But as he came back around, I was like, "See anything that strikes you?" And he was like, "I saw some stuff, but I think I will go home and just probably poke around Pinterest for a while." I was like, "Right on, man. That's what you're gonna do. Then that's what you should do."
Now,
He looked
answer
at
a
10,000 designs. I figured.
As somebody who deals with that all the time. I had somebody tell me that you can go to Pinterest and type something in now. Like, I used to think it was
Like
just
AI
like
generated?
offered up. No, but just like if I want a
It's like a
scorpion,
feed.
it'll give me 50 of them. I didn't know Pinterest worked.
I use
that way.
Pinterest all the time actually for like, not all the time, but you can organize images so you can have a.
So the things are.
You know, I got a dragon board on my Pinterest
Yeah.
of dragons or peonies or masks, and it will. You can save things to like your folder basically that exists on there, but it will also. You know, if I pull up this dragon and save it, underneath it are going to be things that look like that. So you can kind of like keep layering and adding it. So it's like it's a
It's an encyclopedia of images. More
right.
than
It's a joke
like
that
a
tattooers
everything.
talk about it as Pinterest tattoos, but it's actually it's almost a better place to look for reference than Instagram.
It's better
because
than
it's got
a Google image
Google
search,
image
for
search.
sure.
It's like a better version of Google image search.
Yeah.
It's been around a long time now, but I feel like when it first came about, it was just like for trendy things, and it didn't have a search engine and whatnot. But
I think that there's like a more of a social media component to it, but that is not how I use it. But you could just get on there and scroll it like you would
Well, my wife's
Instagram or
like,
TikTok or some
she
shit.
loves wallpaper, and she was just like, I could go to Pinterest and put floral wallpaper, and it'll give me the most
Yeah.
beautiful floral wallpaper that's ever been created in the history of
True.
mankind. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad tool.
Not at all, yeah.
But it used to have a stigma of like that's lame, and it went
Well, because
right along
people would
with
put in-
infinity signs and
Yeah.
you know, birds a little
Micro tats.
Yeah, and that stuff's on there also, definitely.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm seeing way more TikTok screenshots now from the college kids and stuff tonight because now I know what it looks like. So I'm like, oh, is this from TikTok? Yeah, and it's the most blurry photo of a super fine line tattoo.
Because it was moving when it's
Yeah, exactly. So,
They're holding it, trying
can
to
you
get it.
describe to me what that is? So
I've
it's
been
changing a
getting
little
this
bit.
year for the first time AI shit, and it's very
It's crazy,
bad
right?
and
Have
frustrating.
you all seen these I've seen two in the past week of these commencement speeches where some like speaker at a graduation is talking about AI being the future, and the graduating class just goes booing like crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've seen it twice, two different universities where whoever the key speaker is just like, you know, AI is very much the way of the future, and then people just start fucking screwing on.
Yeah. It's here to take all your jobs.
Yeah.
I'm not like drawing a hard line around that I think it's all bad, but I do think it's bad when I think it's very bad for tattoo imagery.
I think
and
it's
people
bad
just
if
don't
it's
get it.
replacing you guys. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like it's a valuable tool for research or for certain things. You know, like I mean, in Japan, I was like, even like translate this menu, take a picture of it, translates the whole thing, whatever.
That's crazy.
But
I think that's valuable.
But people put in
artists.
draw me a dragon sleeve. I think the problem with it that I'm having is that it gives people too much of an idea to latch onto, and and the idea is bad from the beginning. So it's like, it's one thing if somebody brings you a reference of a tattoo that's been done that's not very good, and you're like, oh, I see what you're going for, and I'll make it better. But people bring you an AI idea or send it to you, and they think it's their idea, and they think that it's good because it's polished looking, even though it's a fucking mess. And then they can't unsee that, and they're like, well, I see that you're drawing me something better, but actually I kind of want it to look like this thing that's my idea. And you're like, yeah, but you didn't, that's not your
That's
idea.
not your idea. That's a collection of a bunch of other ideas.
Collection of words you typed in the prompt or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, how about...
But it's not even a question of words, it's stolen ideas from things that
Well, and then
exist
there's
already.
that. You don't know that, and you also don't know... It's one thing if you or I steal something from somebody, look at somebody else's tattoo and are inspired by it, or
Right.
copy
But
it,
you're
or
being
whatever,
wrong.
because we know, but we also know what we're intentionally doing it. When you're unintentionally stealing from something, it's like you could be doing somebody wrong and you're not even trying to, but you're pulling something that you don't understand.
I think in the coming years it's going to be an uphill battle for us. But I also think that based on those reactions that I saw from those speeches, that young people will reject it on a large scale as to be rebellious. And I also think that there was a time, like 10 or 15 years ago, maybe less, maybe more recent, where there was this like concept of one day tattoo artists will be obsolete, and there'll be a booth you can go into and stick your arm in. And that's not real at
But they
all.
do have it at Bang Bang.
At what?
At Bang Bang, they have one.
Yeah, but that shit ain't dope. It don't come out dope. There's no way.
I'm just waiting for the day that somebody loses their arm in it, and then they just we don't have to talk about them anymore.
Yeah, but if they
just
have
put the hole straight through it,
if they have that at Bang Bang, I guarantee the people that pull their arm out of that motherfucker look at this thing and go, "This is trash."
They go, "This is worth $2,500. I'm glad I got this thing."
Is that what?
I don't know. I don't even know. I'm pretty sure they have.
I think if you have a real understanding of tattooing, that you know that that's not real. That that's not
tattooing,
really gonna happen.
In some ways, it is one of the safest things because a human has to apply it, and it's a local thing. It's like of all the, it can't be outsourced.
Correct.
So it's not only will AI not take it or automation won't take it, but like you got to go to the guy in your town basically. So it creates that.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm sure there's somebody could make an argument too for like walk-in style tattooing where you're like, maybe you can get somebody's describing something to you and you don't even have a starting point and you can generate something that gives you a starting point that then you draw and refine. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to do it with a fucking Japanese sleeve, but...
How many times do you put out your armrest and you go put your arm right here and they put it like this and then you pick it up and you reposition it?
Oh, yeah.
Like that, there's nuances of things that the machine's not, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not going to work.
No.
You know what I mean? And I'm glad because, when the first time you heard about it, you were like, fuck. What the fuck? You know what I mean? But in reality, if you really think about it and the amount of time that's transpired since those sort of ideas were first introduced to now, it's like, that's not. Like,
but it's cost prohibitive. It's like maybe it could exist, but it doesn't. It doesn't fit the.
But the outcome can't be as good as what you guys both produced today.
No. Unless it's a perfect circle, the size of a quarter.
Yeah,
but even then, probably.
But we all know about perfect circles and perfect bands. That the second that motherfucker moves, it's not perfect
exactly.
anymore. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't think it's.
And so that keeps it from happening.
They did a thing when I was working for Lyle, and I'd kind of forgotten about this, and I was talking to Chad Keplinger at Scranton, and he was like, like when I met him in San Francisco, Lyle was doing this thing, and he kind of reminded me, but he basically got tattooed by one of the first automated machines, and Lyle doesn't give a fuck. Like,
well, he
was just kind of like
beyond the cutting edge.
Yeah, exactly. And people were like, I can't believe he's doing that. And he's like, fuck does it doesn't matter, but it was that kind of thing where it was like a half-inch circle or just like, and everybody in the audience is blown away, and it's like nobody fucking cares.
You see his legs? What the fuck? How do you give a fuck about that circle? So
what did the apparatus look like? Was it like a giant
CNC
crane
machine
with like a fucking?
It's just a CNC machine, yeah. But that's why it's like at some point it would have to potentially harm somebody. Right? It's like.
I just feel like I saw when there was an article I saw online where it was like this country invented the first whatever, and the robotic arm part that came to the needle was this big, but the thing connected to it was literally like a crane that was fucking huge. That you're like, well, how much does that cost?
Well, the first computer was the size of this room.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like it's just like what?
Tell me a story about the Lotto signature on your arm.
I worked for him for maybe like a year and a half, and
Were you dealing with him regularly?
He was around. He lived in Ukiah, which is maybe like 4 hours north of San Francisco, but he owned the building that the shop was in. So if he was in town, he would stay he had an apartment above the shop, basically. Sure. So I would see him on it was cool. Like I would see him on maybe a monthly basis, at least once a month, and he would come down and hang out if he was in town. And the shop you tattooed behind a bar. So he'd come and sit at the bar and pour a drink and hang out and shoot the shit or whatever. Yeah. And we had a good relationship, but it was still, even getting the tattoo from him, I had to ask one of the other guys who had been there longer, and they were like, yeah, you kind of got to catch him at the right time.
A little finesse.
Yeah, a little finesse, half, had a couple or whatever. Yeah.
Telling some stories.
Yeah.
That's how you gotta get tattooed by me too.
Yeah. But I was very impressed that he freehand, no stencil, whatever, it's his signature, but he didn't. I thought he was for sure going to go over something, and he got it right in the right in the pocket.
Cool.
But he's very you'll ask him and he'll say no, and you ask him again and he says no, and you ask him a third time and it's like, all right, set me up. It's like Angela. It's like, make the step. If you do the thing, I'll tattoo you.
Yeah.
You set me up, I'll do it. And I saw him tattoo I saw him tattoo one or two random people, but for the most part, he would tattoo tattooers if they asked.
I was around him a handful of times. He definitely didn't know who I was. But the last time I saw him was in a hotel lobby in Philadelphia, and he was buying a bunch of candy at the like candy bars. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I stepped over there and said, "Hey, Lyle, nice to see you. Put all that on my room, please." And I bought him like fucking 6 candy bars.
He was interesting. I mean, he's an interesting person, you know. I don't know. He was cool. For me at that time, I was tattooing for 4 or 5 years, so it was like it's cool to be around somebody that you saw pictures of and was blown up to be this important person. And he had interesting history, and it was
wild stories about old boy.
Yeah, he had some wild shit going on, and stuff that I definitely learned more when I was working there. And he was pretty open about stuff too. Like he wasn't airing. I mean, I don't airing the specifics of his life, but he didn't mind telling you the stories because most of them were funny. Also, there was like an element of humor and an element of darkness and whatever. Yeah. It's just like what it was, and that's what tattooing. That was tattooing.
I mean, but also, man. When did he first get a suit? You know what I'm saying? Like the people that were doing that.
He was suited like a carny. Like he got his suit when he started tattooing.
Yeah,
by Burt Grant, I believe, right? Yeah.
And regular people with a fucking dog to walk and twins don't do that. It's like I'm this guy today, and then fucking 6 months from now I'm a different fucking guy, and he got a fucking full on suit, man, in the fucking I guess 60s, right?
Yeah, he was definitely maybe he was 20, I don't know, but he was young.
But people didn't look that way, and it was also
when he was also, and he's like a handsome guy, and kind of like had that kind of showman personality.
And he was a big lanky guy, and he was. Charismatic, and he I don't know, man. He just wasn't. There's a reason that he was able to tattoo Janis Joplin. There's a reason he's on Rolling Stone. He's charismatic and he's different. And people like that are fucking weirdos. They do weird shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just being, especially back then. Mm-hmm. And then if you look through the precursor to him, like the old photos that he was seeing, like when you think about these amazing women that we know of that were suited in the 40s, it's like fucking mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm. They tattooed and they traveled with the circus, actually, with the tigers in the cages.
Not an easy life.
Yeah.
Not an easy life. Fuck.
And it was almost a career path, a financial choice. They're like, if I get this tattoo, I can make money by doing this. It wasn't like, I'm a tattoo enthusiast and I like to look at tattoos on Instagram. It was like, no,
That's fair.
and I'm sure it was excruciating. Think about getting tattooed now and then take all the capacitors off and the fucking, and they just were, the goal was to get the suit done in 2 months or whatever. I'm sure it was terrible.
I will say, the other side of that is when you see old videos of motherfuckers tattooing with no gloves and shit, they're not playing at all. They're very much like a line is a motherfucker. They're done and they're gone.
Well, Lyle's I remember him telling me with his his stomach, he was just showing me whip shading on his stomach. Then he was like, the 6 flat, and he said that's one whip. Like, he's like, because, we're tattooing, and he's like, and you're just going and going and going. And he's like, one pass, one stroke. That's what that is. And I'm like, that's what's crazy.
Both of you guys have listened to this podcast a fair amount. There's so many people that have described a 6 flat as the most dangerous thing that a man can wield. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just think about that. And the way you're describing him saying that to you,
could have spilled his guts right on the floor with that fucking thing.
I've had people be like, a 6 flat
cut you
will
blind.
open you up if you're not fucking, you know what I mean?
And that shit would be screaming too. How did the pepper look? Did it look?
It was perfect, and it was 50 years old.
You see how seriously he went from laughing about this to it was perfect.
15 years old.
That's awesome.
50 years old.
Oh, 50.
It was 50 years old, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, it was in his 80s. It was older than that, and it was like, it's just in there. It's good tattooing.
Wow.
Made to last.
When you tattooed there, was everybody stationed behind them? We went there and saw the bar.
There's not even so Lyle, it was cool because he had
I thought it was cool.
People,
we can put a bar in about radio station if you want.
it sucked to
I was
tattoo
shocked.
behind. It was terrible to tattoo behind, but it was set up in such an interesting way that was so sort of like proprietary to the space, which felt like old tattooers. It wasn't like, he didn't have a fucking craftsman toolbox. He had like, he built this station. The power supply was like, the rheostat was in the wood kit, built in to fit behind the bar, and you couldn't fit a massage table back there, so you had the bar, and then you had a shelf under the bar, and then the station opposite it, and then they had a like an upholstered bench that you would lay horizontal across from the station top
and
to the shelf on the bar.
12-inch wide board.
Right, and it was and it was all designed that the shelf was the height of the thing, and it was like, that shit was cool. And it was cool that it existed. It wasn't cool to tattoo. Like, it wasn't easy to tattoo with.
Accommodating to you or your client.
But we were doing small tattoos, and for the space, it was fine. But it felt like, it's like a piece of tattoo history. It was very cool that it was like that. And it could have been updated. I mean, he had essentially all of the resources needed to do that. He didn't have to have a bar there, but like, I guess it used to be a bar. The space used to be a bar, so he kind of kept it, and it was very cool.
There was a fella here yesterday from, I think he said Maine. Did you talk to him?
I saw him walking around. He was a
before.
tattooer. I meant to ask him. He looked like he was carrying a machine case or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know why. If he
Maybe
thought
he just
maybe
thought like
sell
didn't want
some
to leave
shit
it in,
or not.
or if he didn't want to leave it in his car.
Very well. Could be the case. But he was a very nice guy. He said that we met in Norfolk. Very nice guy. And excited and enthusiastic. He had been to Louisville, a couple other places on his way here.
Corey something, but I met him. Corey was his name.
He gave me his card, but
Hawaiian shirt, glasses.
yeah, he was. I was showing him all these sheets out here, and a lot of them came from Tattoo Charlie. And Charlie's from Kentucky, and he was in Louisville with Slim. He saw Slim the other day and all that. And I told him the story, but I probably told y'all this story, but I was at Tattoo Charlie's one day delivering body jewelry. And Charlie, I sold jewelry to him for about 2.5 years. And during that time, he was always very nice to me. And his son, Buddy, they had a tattoo museum there that's just incredible. And I think like the museum pieces, a lot of them are in the shop now, but it used to be a separate building. And Charlie always treated us really well, and all these sheets are just, how magical that stuff is. It's so cool to have those sheets, man. They look good, they feel good, and it just makes me happy. Anyway, talking to this kid, I was like, one time we had been hanging out with Charlie for a couple hours, and we were leaving, me and Adam, and we go out on like the front steps of the building, and Lyle Tuttle and his girlfriend are standing there. And that's when he was dating that really tall chick who had like the jewel on her forehead. I don't know, you've probably seen pictures of her maybe, but she was kind of very much like a fucking Amazonian huge lady, When I say, I mean tall, and but also foxy and whatever, younger than Lyle. Anyway, we go inside and they're not in there any time, and we hear something. And then they called us and they're like, "You just missed it, man. Charlie just shot himself in the knee with Lyle's old lady's Glock."
What the fuck?
The Glocks don't have safeties.
Yeah.
And I guess, I don't know if she had it in her hand or pulled it out of her purse or what it was, but Charlie's like, "Let me check that out." Pop, and just shoots himself on the inside of his fucking left knee.
Oh my god.
With a 9mm.
I never heard that.
I mean, we just walked out that door. Like, we weren't even gone yet. I think I was smoking and Adam maybe been on the phone or something. I don't know, or vice versa, one or the other. But man, fucking
Jesus
crazy.
Christ.
Yeah.
Wow.
He had good story. Like, he was very close with Colonel Todd, who was that old sideshow guy. He had cool stories, and I don't remember all of the everything, but it was cool to. You're in the environment, and something comes up, and he was like, "Oh, this reminds me of the time that this thing happened." And you're like, "Damn, this shit's it's very cool." Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I was really lucky to work there, and working at that shop, there were so many. It attracted so many tattooers that I met a ton of people. Yeah, Tattoo City's across the street. People would just want to come check it out. So I met a ton of people working just by being, sitting in there.
What were Ed and Lyle's relationship like? Was there a rivalry because they're across the street, or were they just doing different shit?
I'm sure at some point there was some sort of rivalry, even if it was friendly. But I mean, when they were both at that point in time, there was nothing. Yeah, and they used to. At some, there's a library between the two of them that's like a new construction. But he would talk about like, Ed and I used to be able to like wave to each other.
Yeah.
So I think they were fine, and I think it was a very different thing that they were doing.
Yeah, I never went to Lyle's place, but when I went to Ed's place, it was great. Really cool.
Yeah, I was lucky. I got tattooed there 3 times, I think, by different people, and like sat in different rooms, and I'd see Ed not all the time, but there would definitely be days where I'd be hanging out and Lyle's sitting over here and Ed walks by and everybody waves and you're just kind of like, well, I guess this is tattooing, you know?
Pretty fucking cool. Yeah. Big
That's
dogs.
cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was very cool. Lyle also had like a lot. You would just see, or Ed too, like just being in San Francisco. You'd tattoo some old lady and they have a little butterfly and they're like, oh, I got it down by the bus station 40 years ago. And you're like, oh, Lyle did that tattoo or whatever. Like, that's who that, well, you know,
Yeah.
these people don't know that they were tattooed at a place in, place in time that was historical, basically.
Man, I gotta take some fucking alpha brain or something. I've been forgetting everything. But what's our guy's name? Art Vandelay. What's his
Sam?
name? Sam. Yes. Sam what?
Oh,
Clayton. Sam Clayton.
there you go.
Did you ever listen to that episode? Man,
Probably.
I'm not hard to do it, but
I've
Sam,
listened to most of them. I'm sure I've listened to it.
Sam, who we recorded a couple months ago, he's great. He's a Virginia guy. He's a great artist, and he just loves tattoos, but he's not a tattooer.
Oh, yeah, he's not. Yeah, I did listen to this one, yeah.
Man. So the Ed Hardy story on that is just crazy. And he was working at a fucking FedEx in Hawaii, and Ed walks in the door and says, I need to ship all these scrolls to San Francisco. And he helps him do it, and he has a koi from Brandon Saunders in Richmond.
Wow.
You know, Brandon Saunders still tattoos in Richmond. He's a fucking gotta be 30-year guy.
Wow.
Ed sees the koi and is like, that's interesting. Who did it? And they talk for a minute. And then Ed's like, well, if you ever want to talk art, here's my card. And he wrote his fucking phone number on it and gave it to Sam. And then when we recorded the session, he gave that card to me. And you can still see the faint pencil marks of the phone number on it.
Did you try it?
I did not try it.
Text it?
But I'll still remember. I'll show it to you.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But wow, and he didn't know who the fuck it was at the time. And then later on, now he's covered in tattoos and he's very much versed in it. He's a listener of No Lies Just Bullshit, so he like is up on his shit. And I don't know, it was just a very nice gesture for him to give me that, but also like crazy that Ed Hardy was just like, I don't want to talk tattoos on the island. You know?
That's the sort of magic of tattooing, and even now, I think you can get a little bit of like they're just guys, you know.
Well, that's
they're just
also the
dudes.
human in Ed Hardy. It's like there's some part of you guys that or me or anybody, that if like someone implies that they know something about tattoos, and when you really know about tattoos, part of you might want to be like, actually, I know that guy, or I've done that thing, or I actually do tattoo. Like, you know, like there's an innocent part of you who loves it so much that you want. And Ed clearly was just like, this is a fucking kid, but he has a koi tattoo. So Ed's like cool enough and loves it enough to be like, well, if you ever want to talk about that stuff, imagine what if he'd have called that number, what Ed would have showed him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, you know, and I think people don't. I mean, that guy, he wasn't a tattooer, right? So he didn't necessarily need to make that connection, but he wouldn't have given him his phone number if he didn't care. Wasn't expecting a call.
Well, he could have said, if you ever want to get tattooed, and give him his card.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He said, if you ever want to talk art, here's my number.
Yeah.
You know? It's fucking dope, man.
Yeah.
Let's get him office. I'll show it to you.
We'll call him.
Y'all want to wrap it up, boys?
Yeah.
Nobody's going at it.
Yeah.
Chris, please tell folks how to see your tattoos and get tattooed by you.
You can see my tattoos in Brooklyn, New York. And
Walking around.
Walking around. My Instagram is my name. It's Chris Wielk. ChrisWielk. And, you know, so maybe here, maybe this year, not a lot of traveling, but
You know, start a big piece out of the cat.
yeah,
Bring Chris
if you
back.
want a back piece or a sleeve, I'll come here and do it.
There you go.
You mentioned an art show you're having?
Oh, yeah,
You're
we're
gonna be
having
part of in New York?
We're having a show. There's like a 4-person group show with myself, Michael Gary, Jimmy and Nikita from Senna in New York, and we're doing it the last week of October in New York, and we'll put out like a flyer for that. We're hoping to have all the details on that in the next month or two, and I just put out 2 books, so they'll be out. Reprinted a book and then re-released another thing, so those are out and available to order now. I'll have them in like 2 months. So just check it out.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Very cool. Alley Cat Tattoo, Jake Hockman. Here we are.
here we are.
Happy to
Thanks,
sit here
fellas.
with Chris Wielk. We've all been saying your name wrong forever.
It's okay.
We all
Everybody
say
does.
well, yeah.
You can say it.
I would like to say it right.
I've never heard you say it. I don't think either. So now that I know,
That's not that.
don't worry, it won't happen again, Chris.
Well, my favorite thing with this guy is I actually found out like that other day kind of randomly. I'm like, oh, I was like, let me talk to Jake Hawkinsmith.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't heard Hawkinsmith in a while.
I thought it was Hockenstein.
Hawkinstein, I'll take any of them.
All right.
Come get that.
As long as you're looking at your tattoo, call me.
Call me whatever you want.
Thanks, fellas.
All right.
Like me, dope, you not like me. If you get shot in front of the cops, you not like me. You ain't got no work on the block, you not like me. It's hot and you ain't got no drop, you not like me. Like me, dope, you not like me. Not like me. We ain't got nothing in common, not like me. You not like me.
No lies, just bullshit.